Chapter 845. If you're tired, let's sleep for a while more, okay? Yu wants to sleep with mommy. Yun Shishir immediately carried him to the bed, covered him with the blanket, and hugged him. Yu nestled in her arms. When his little hand touched her skin, it was wet and sticky. He couldn't help but frown in disgust. Mommy, you're sweating so much. It stinks. Yun Shishir pretended to be wronged and said, Baby, you actually think mommy stinks? Humph. Why would you dislike stinky mommy? As he spoke, he yawned. Little Munchkin couldn't take it anymore. He didn't tell Yun Shishir that he hadn't slept properly for 2 days and 2 nights. Other than worrying about her, he was afraid that she would kick the blanket and catch a cold. Of course, this was only part of the reason. The main reason was that he was thinking about something. As for what it was, he naturally wouldn't mention it to Yun Shishir. Hence, he didn't sleep well. Hence, when his head hit the pillow, he fell asleep very quickly and let out a sweet snoring sound. In the past, he would always sleep quietly. Even his breathing was so soft that it was almost inaudible. However, at this moment, perhaps he was really tired. Even his breathing was a little heavy when he slept. Yun Shishir's heart ached as she hugged him tighter. She also fell asleep peacefully with him in her arms. The two of them didn't wake up until nighttime. Hence, when Mu Yaja carried Xiao Yichen into the ward, he frowned slightly when he saw Yun Shishir and Yu sleeping in each other's arms. It was almost nighttime. Why weren't they awake yet? The ward wasn't air-conditioned, and there was no fan. Only a small window was open for ventilation. Although the summer was over, the weather was still hot. There was no air conditioning in the ward, and they were still wrapped in blankets. Hence, when Mu Yaja walked to the bedside, he saw that Yun Shishir's forehead was covered in sweat. It was obvious that he had perspired a lot. Yu was no exception. He was drenched in sweat, but even though it was so hot, the two of them were still in a deep sleep. Even when Xiao Yichen accidentally bumped into the bedpost and made quite a bit of noise, they did not wake up. He hadn't come over for the past few days. Now that the heavy work on his hands had temporarily come to an end, he pushed everything aside. Little Yichen was also clamoring for his mommy, so he brought him along. Mu Yaja walked to the bedside and sat down. He reached out his hand and touched her forehead. She had sweated so much and had been on the drip for the past 2 days. Naturally, her fever had subsided. He was happy to see her recover from her illness. This woman was really troublesome. She had entered the palace twice just to film a movie. There was nothing he could do about her. Yun Shishir was awakened by his movements. She opened her eyes slightly. When her vision cleared, she saw that it was him. Her eyes widened, and she immediately said in a hoarse voice, "You're here." The moment she spoke, little Munchkin in her arms woke up as well. He seemed to be still sleepy as he rubbed his eyes in a daze. His sleepy eyes widened slightly. When he saw that it was Mu Yaja, he was stunned for a moment before calling out softly, "Daddy." Mu Yaja pulled him into his arms and gently stroked his messy hair. "You've been accompanying me in the hospital for the past few days. Did you not sleep well?" Yu nodded and yawned loudly. "I'm awake," he said in a childish voice. From afternoon to night, he had slept for a total of 7 hours. It was time to wake up. Chapter 846. He wondered if he would be able to sleep at night if he slept like this. Yu saw the smile on his father's face and seemed to be infected by his smile. He couldn't help but smile as well. For the father and son pair who had always been at each other's throats, this was probably the warmest and most harmonious scene in history. Yu seemed to have accepted him from the bottom of his heart and no longer resisted his touch. He even called him Daddy willingly. In the past, if it weren't for Mu Yaja's threats, he wouldn't have called him daddy. Yu, can you do your brother a favor? Xiao Yichen suddenly came over shamelessly with a fawning smile on his face. Yu glanced at him and saw the fawning smile on his face. He didn't have to think twice to know that he had a favor to ask of him. His elder brother had a favor to ask of him, but he couldn't possibly agree so quickly, could he? Hence, Yu pouted and said, I'm not helping you. Why? Xiao Yichen pouted pitifully and said, actually, the favor I'm asking of you is really a small matter for you. It's a piece of cake for you. I can't help you for free. Yu suddenly rubbed his flat stomach and rolled his eyes. He smiled mischievously and said, how about this? You treat me to a big meal and I'll help you. A big meal? Wasn't that a small matter? Xiao Yichen agreed immediately. Okay. It's a deal then. Okay, tell me, what do you need help with? Xiao Yichen smiled and passed the arithmetic book in his hand to him. There are a few questions that I need your help with. Yun Shishir was so amused that she laughed out loud. These two little fellows were really too interesting. Mu Yage's expression froze for a moment. How could he say that he felt embarrassed? As the older brother, he had to ask his younger brother for some simple arithmetic questions. Yu's lips twitched as he took the arithmetic book from his brother's hand. Although it was just a few questions, when he opened the book, he saw that it was full of multiplication and division. In addition to the arithmetic book, there were more than 10 English translation questions. Xiao Yichen went to Alan Bell Bilingual Kindergarten. Although it was a kindergarten, the teaching style was very strict. The school insisted on letting the children win at the starting line. They had already started to learn some questions that were only taught in primary school. Therefore, most kindergartens only to count, addition and subtraction, addition and subtraction. Subtraction and multiplication and division were taught. This was difficult for little Yichen. He rubbed his head for a long time and only felt a splitting headache. As for addition and subtraction, it was fortunate that he could count them one by one with his fingers. But when it came to multiplication and division, even if you counted your toes, you wouldn't be able to do it. Little Yichen grumbled, I hate math the most. It's not fun at all to do. You're so stupid. These questions are so easy, but you can't even solve them. If Xiao Yichen saw you use usual extracurricular exercises, he would probably collapse at the desk and foam at the mouth. Xiao Yichen seemed to understand the disdain in Yu's eyes. He held his heart in pain and said, Brother, you despise me. That's for sure. Sob, Xiao Yichen cried as he collapsed on the sofa. Yu took the exercise book and scanned through the questions. It was so simple that it made one's hair stand on end. Xiao Yichen eagerly handed over a pen. However, he did not expect Yu to take the pen from him and fill in the answers almost immediately after reading the questions. Chapter 847. Xiao Yichen felt that in the blink of an eye, Yu had already thrown the neatly filled arithmetic book to him. I'm done. You're so fast. He was in disbelief. Yu answered matter-of-factly, of course. These questions are too easy. Xiao Yichen's eyes went blank for a moment before he hurriedly flipped through the book to see if he had just filled in the answers half-heartedly. However, he casually picked a few answers and checked them with much effort. They were all correct. For a moment, Xiao Yichen could not believe his eyes. He felt that Yuntinyo's calculation speed was unbelievable. How did he do it? How did he finish it so quickly? Xiao Yichen passed the English book to him. There were only a few translation questions left. Yu gave him a look of disdain before he swept through the questions like a whirlwind. Xiao Yichen's mouth was so wide open that 2 eggs could be stuffed in it. Yu reached out to lift his chin and manually closed his mouth. I'm done. That's amazing. Xiao Yichen exclaimed from the bottom of his heart in disbelief. He was waiting for Yu to be trapped by these annoying questions so that he could embarrass him. In the end, he finished it so quickly. He did not even know if it took him more than 5 minutes to finish it. Do you think I'm you? Yu looked proud. Despite his disdainful words, Xiao Yichen's praise was very pleasing to his ears. He raised his chin proudly. Yu, you're so good. Yun Shishir was also stunned by the speed at which he swept through the questions. She did not know that her precious son was so good at studying. Of course. Yu's little tail wagged. I'm much smarter than Xiao Yichen. Yes. Little brother, you're so smart. I spent half a day trying to solve these questions, but you finished them in just a few minutes. You're amazing. Xiao Yichen complimented him again. Yu felt as if she was floating in the air and was about to fly into the sky. Mu Yaja pulled him down in time. Are you hungry? Yes. Yu nodded. I'm starving. I haven't even had dinner yet. Mu Yaja glanced at Yun Shishir with some resentment. Yun Shishir immediately raised her hands in surrender. I was wrong. I didn't take good care of Yu. Sob. Mommy, you know it too. As for me, I don't need you to take care of me. You just need to take care of yourself. Yu snorted, but there was a gentle and doting smile on her face. Xiao Yichen hooked his arm around his shoulder and patted his chest. Let's go. Big brother will treat you to a big meal. Thus, the two little guys went out to have fun with their arms around each other's shoulders. Yun Shishir was so amused that she rolled over on the bed and laughed. How did she give birth to these two clowns? One looked cold and aloof on the surface, but was actually a little joker. The other looked gentle and refined on the surface, but was actually a big tsundere. Mu Yaja sat on the bed and hugged the lazy and cute little woman in his arms. He saw that her body under the hospital gown was covered in sweat. She must have perspired a lot. This woman probably hadn't showered for 2 days. Yun Shishir suddenly calmed down when he hugged her like this. They hadn't seen each other for a few days, but she could easily feel the deep emotions in his cold and deep eyes. They were surging and intertwining in the dark. No matter how stupid she was, it wasn't difficult for her to see that the man was trying hard to suppress something at this moment. Chapter 848. Mu Yaja lowered his gaze and looked at the little woman in his arms, who was like a lazy cat. His eyes darkened as he swept his gaze downwards. She was wearing a hospital gown with the collar slightly open. At a glance, one could see the great view hidden under the hospital gown. The man's gaze deepened slightly. He reached out and lifted her collar. Yun Shishir immediately slapped his hand away and said, not knowing whether to laugh or cry, "What are you doing? Don't peek. I haven't seen that part of your body." The man said righteously. Yun Shishir was annoyed. Mu Yaja. You. How many days have you not showered? Oh. Yun Shishir's face turned redder as she said awkwardly, "It's been 2 days." Then. Mu Yaja paused. He suddenly got up and carried her in a princess carry. Lowering his head, he breathed in her fragrance. Let's shower together. She widened her eyes abruptly and wanted to push him away in embarrassment. Her face was burning. No. Why not? She shook her head and pursed her lips. Her face was so red that it looked as if blood could drip out. If Yu and Yichen come back and see this, it won't be good. They won't be back for a while. Mu Yaja said with certainty, an unfathomable smile on his face. Yun Shishir was stunned. At first, she was still a little confused. However, when she saw the deep smile in his eyes, she suddenly understood. Mu Yaja must have colluded with Xiao Yichen. Xiao Yichen must have taken Yu away under Mu Yaja's instructions to create private space for him. She angrily said, "Great. You and your father actually colluded in secret." Before she could finish her words, Mu Yaja lowered his head and kissed her lips, stopping her from speaking. Yun Shishir was startled by the sudden kiss. The man's kiss was urgent and deep. He hadn't touched her for a few days, and every part of his body was constantly missing her, clamoring for her. He couldn't control himself no matter how hard he tried. After all, he hadn't touched her for a long time, so his kissing skills were a little rough and clumsy. There were a few times when their lips touched, and it hurt her. Yun Shishir groaned in pain. She clenched her fists and punched his muscular shoulders in protest. However, her insignificant protest was naturally ignored by him. He carried her into the bathroom and put her down. Yun Shishir wanted to run away as soon as she could. But would he give her this chance? That was obviously impossible. He grabbed her back and pressed her against the wall. His tall body leaned forward and easily trapped her in this weak world. The man leaned his head against her forehead and pressed it against the tip of her nose. His voice was so gentle that it seemed like it could drip water. "I miss you." He missed her very much. His clear and mellow breath brushed against her ear, burning her cheeks red. Yun Shishir shyly turned her face away. His hazy and hoarse mumbling was extremely magnetic, yet it could make one's heart skip a beat without warning. The man grabbed her chin and forced her to meet his gaze. "Did you miss me?" He questioned her directly, but it made her face even hotter. How could this man be so evil? "No," Yun Shishir said stubbornly, avoiding his gaze. Mu Yaja was naturally dissatisfied with this answer. His hand gently pinched her waist, which was no match for his. Coincidentally, he grasped her sensitive spot. Yun Shishir let out a weak moan as she was at a loss of what to do. Chapter 849. Mu Yaja's tall and slender body pressed against her, not giving her any way out. He asked again, "Did you miss me, HM?" "Yes. Yes." Yun Shishir saw his dark eyes and did not dare to provoke him, so she told him the truth. However, her face was already unbelievably red. Mu Yaja, however, was very satisfied with her reaction. He could not help but lightly touch her alluring red lips. As if he could not get enough of this delicacy with a single kiss, he pressed his cold, thin lips against hers. The tip of his tongue gently traced the shape of her lips, tasting her sweetness. He repeatedly touched her lips like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water, kissing her lips clean. He pressed his lips against hers and asked again, "What did you miss about me?" Yun Shishir looked up shyly, but her eyes met with his dark eyes. There was no need to hide the depth in his eyes. "Mu Yaja, stop fooling around. It won't be good if the babies come back and see us." She didn't even dare to think about it. What if Yu and Xiao Yichen suddenly came back and saw this scene that was inappropriate for children? Yun Shishir only felt ashamed. Her face was so hot that it looked like it was about to bleed. Just thinking about it made her so embarrassed that she wanted to hide in a hole. "You don't have to care about them. Care about me first, HM." The man naturally wouldn't allow her to evade the topic. Holding her delicate chin, he couldn't help but kiss her delicate jade-like neck. She couldn't help but groan. She completely lost control and immediately bit her lips hard to control herself from making a sound. Her deliberate suppression made him unhappy. His muscular and tall body, which was unique to men, came close to her. "Not going to say it, HM." His voice was deep and magnetic. Her heart skipped a beat. For a moment, she even lost control of her breathing and felt suffocated. Shishir, tell me, what did you miss about me? I want to hear it." Mu Yaja kissed her ear and sucked on her round earlobe. Like an electric shock, it spread through her limbs and bones, making her feel numb. How could this man be so vile? Yun Shishir, on the other hand, was like a rebellious young girl. Whatever he wanted to hear, she would not say. The man finally lost his patience. With one hand on her shoulder, he impatiently tore her hospital gown apart, revealing her snow-white, delicate shoulders and her seductive, jade-like collarbones. At first, Yun Shishir still struggled. However, the man was really anxious. Not allowing her to resist, he lifted her body up. She was so thin that the man's strong arm could support her steadily. From now on, he was the master of the world. His large palm brushed past. She continued to play with him. Yun Shishir's delicate brows furrowed slightly. In the blink of an eye, everything was under his control. Muyaja hurriedly penetrated her in this position. In the bathroom, there was a scene that made people blush and their hearts beat faster. After a long time, Yun Shishir was exhausted. He was so tired that he couldn't even move a finger. She allowed the man to put her into the bathtub. At this point, she couldn't help but sigh at how luxurious this ward was. The bathtub was wide and deep. It was big enough for two people to enter completely. Muyaja squeezed a few drops of essential oil into the bathtub. After a while, the large bathroom was filled with a fragrance. Chapter 850. He turned on the shower and allowed the warm water to splash on their bodies. He hugged her and planted a deep kiss on her forehead. Clearly, he was craving the taste of her kiss. After a round of lovemaking, their bodies were covered in a layer of sweat. Gradually, the rising water in the bathtub covered both of them. Submerging their bodies in the water, they instantly felt very comfortable. Yun Shishir was like a lazy cat, comfortably nestled in his arms and fiddled with his hands. How beautiful! Every finger was fair and slender with distinct joints. It was so beautiful that it put people to shame. This pair of hands should be the hands of an outstanding pianist. They were like exquisitely carved jade bones. In fact, Muyaja had indeed practiced piano and violin since he was young. Yun Shishir admired every finger of his and then reached out her hand to hold his palm tightly. His fingers were much longer than hers. Compared to his, her hands were small and tender. He could wrap both of them with one hand. Her lips curled slightly as she slowly intertwined her hand with his. Then, their fingers intertwined and locked together. Muyaja held her hand tightly and wrapped his arms around her shoulders from behind, locking her in his embrace. How he wished that time could stop here. At least, such an embrace could become eternal. He longed for her fragrance and warmth. Hugging her, no matter how chaotic his heart was, it settled down instantly. It was only at this moment that he realized that his love for this woman had reached the point where he could not control himself. He had always been a man with a strong desire to be in control. No matter what, he wanted to be in control of the situation. He did not like the feeling of being controlled. No matter how big or small, he wanted to be the master of everything. However, he seemed to lose his sense of propriety every time he was in front of this woman. It turned out that he had already reached such a stage for her. He still remembered that day when Yun Tianyu asked him righteously, "Do you like my mommy?" He thought that he could give a perfect answer to this question now. Love. It was not liking but love. Liking someone was a joy at first sight, but love was hard to separate. At first, he didn't understand. What was love? What did marriage mean? As a result, he felt at a loss. But now, he had found the answer from this woman. She had undoubtedly become his weak spot. His reverse scale. One had to know that with his status, he shouldn't be overly concerned about anything or anyone. It was easy to be threatened by the enemy. His current position was high and lonely. If there were any burdens, they would undoubtedly become his burden. However, towards her, he was willing to shoulder it. Love, Yun Shishir didn't hear him clearly at first. She asked him in surprise, "What did you just say?" "Nothing." Mu Yaja's thin lips slightly hooked, pinched her chin, and kissed her lips. Yun Shishir raised her head and responded to the kiss. Just as she stuck out her delicate tongue, it was accurately captured by him. He gently bit the tip of her tongue. It was tender, just like a top-notch delicacy. His hands began to wander around her body. It was obvious that he was not satisfied with what he had just done. Chapter 851. Every time he touched her, she would feel a sense of extreme sensitivity. Every time his slender fingers brushed past, clusters of flames would be ignited. She couldn't stop trembling in his arms. The temperature in the bathroom suddenly rose. The water vapor filled the air, so much so that she felt like she was going to suffocate under his lingering kiss. He wanted to go deeper, but she quickly stopped him. The man looked confused and asked, "Why, you don't want to? Why are you so energetic?" Yun Shishir complained, "Spare me, I can't take it anymore." Mu Yaja raised his eyebrows and suddenly smiled wickedly. He stared at her little face with a mischievous gaze and let out an ambiguous breath. "You can't take it anymore. It seems like you should train harder." He only wanted her once, and she said she couldn't take it anymore. This woman should strengthen her physical strength. He didn't mind exercising more with her. The ambiguity in the man's words was obvious. She didn't know if it was because of the temperature of the water or because of his overly mischievous words, but her face became even hotter. "Stop fooling around. Who asked you to be so seductive?" Mu Yaja pushed the blame to her. Under his big palm's caress, she was like a budding flower, blooming under his body little by little. Mu Yaja sat her on top of him. Most of the time, he liked to admire the shy and seductive look on this little woman's face when they were in love. It was very seductive. Yun Shishir was so embarrassed that she wanted to die. She wriggled and struggled several times, but it had the opposite effect and made him even more unable to control himself. He had always liked to take the initiative. Therefore, if he wanted, could she escape? Therefore, in this vast world, he once again possessed her. Charming and gentle, a wave of heat swept through. The rising temperature also made the two people immersed in it climb to the peak of brilliance. When Yun Shishir was once again pressed under his body, in a position that would cause people to have wild and fanciful thoughts, she could not help thinking angrily, "This is really a very vile man." After she gave in, she was completely powerless to move. She lay limp under his body and let the warm water submerge her. After flirting with her, even when she opened her eyes, she looked extremely lazy. The seductive look on her face was extremely seductive. He was still full of energy and looked like he wouldn't restrain himself even if he fought for a few more rounds. However, she was completely out of strength. She might as well just end it like this. She weakly nestled in his arms, allowing him to clean her body. He took the shampoo and rubbed it on her head, washing it carefully for her. It seemed that this was not the first time he had served someone. However, she was the only one who could make him lower himself to serve her. However, this was his first time washing someone's hair. He had never treated Xiao Yichen so seriously before. Although she had just recovered from her illness, Yun Shishir's head still hurt faintly. Therefore, he deliberately massaged the acupuncture points on her head. The massage was just right, making her so comfortable that she couldn't help but relax her brows. "It's so comfortable." Yun Shishir couldn't help but smile. She was obviously enjoying it very much. Mu Yaja couldn't help but laugh. This little woman knew how to enjoy herself. After that, he helped her clean the bubbles on her body and took a towel to wipe her. Chapter 852. After wiping her clean, he even helped her put on her clothes. Yun Shishir couldn't help but have an illusion. It was as if she was the Honorable Empress Dowager. And the rumored great executive officer Mu, who was swift and decisive with a wave of his hand, had turned into a loyal and devoted servant. Thinking of this, she was amused by her own thoughts and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Mu Yaja gently scratched her nose. "Stupid woman, what are you laughing at?" "Nothing." Yun Shishir quickly stopped laughing. She couldn't let him know what she was thinking. Otherwise, he would torture her to death. Mu Yaja glanced at her. From her mischievous gaze, he didn't need to think much to know that she was probably cursing something again. He smiled and couldn't help but peck her cheek. He couldn't help but chide her in his heart. This little woman who made people love and hate her. There was a hairdryer in the bathroom, so he carried her in his arms and dried her hair strand by strand. Yun Shishir was secretly happy. This man usually looked cold, arrogant, and unapproachable, but most of the time, in front of her, he was very patient. Her heart was filled with emotions. Such special treatment made her feel extremely satisfied. He carried her all the way back to the bed. Yun Shishir quickly asked, "When can I be discharged?" "You want to be discharged?" Mu Yaja glanced at her. Yun Shishir nodded vigorously. "Yes, of course I want to. After lying in the hospital for 2 days, I'm going to rot. If I continue lying down, I feel that my limbs are going to degenerate. Your fever has just subsided. Stay for another night." "No." Yun Shishir acted coquettishly and hugged his arm. She said softly, "Take me home, okay? I don't want to stay in the hospital anymore." This sentence of "take me home" directly hit the softest part of his heart. Mu Yaja couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. In an instant, he was surrounded by endless warmth. "Go home," his thin lips lifted slightly, and he couldn't help but smile. "Okay. I'll take you home." "Yes." Thus, Mu Yaja got up and went to handle the discharge procedures for her. Mu Group's private hospital was located in the city center, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. Therefore, the surrounding area was surrounded by bustling shopping malls. Xiao Yichen and Yu walked out of the hospital. With him leading the way, the two little lads walked towards the city center. Along the way, Yu walked at the front while Xiao Yichen followed behind him. From time to time, he would sneak a peek at Yu's handsome little face. He seemed to be in a good mood today. At least, it was rare to see his usual cold expression on his face. It was probably because Yun Shishir's fever had subsided that his mood improved. "Yu." Xiao Yichen called out from behind. Yu smiled and turned around. "What's up?" Seeing the smile on his face, Xiao Yichen couldn't help but smile as well. "Why are you walking so fast?" "You're walking too slowly," Yu said as he turned around and walked forward. However, it seemed that his footsteps had slowed down. Xiao Yichen caught up with him and walked side by side with him. Xiao Yichen lowered his head and saw his little hand moving along the hem of his shirt. Suddenly, he said, "Yu, What now?" Yu looked a little annoyed. "Can I hold your hand?" Xiao Yichen asked carefully. There was a shy look on his face. Yu was stunned and immediately rejected him. "No." Chapter 853. Why? Why? Can't we hold hands and walk together? Xiao Yichen shouted indignantly. "It feels weird." Yu said in a muffled voice, but there was a look of disdain on his face. Xiao Yichen was a little confused. "What's weird about it?" Yu glanced at him but did not say anything. They were both boys. Why should they hold hands? Boys still had to hold hands, which made him feel strange. Hold hands. Hold hands, hold hands. Xiao Yichen saw that he did not say anything and started to act coquettishly. Yu said angrily, "Mu Yichen, stop fooling around. Xiao Yichen was unhappy. He held his hurt heart and said softly, I'm not fooling around. I just want to hold your hand. Yu said coldly, are you a pervert? You're the pervert. Xiao Yichen shouted and moved closer. Hold hands. No. Hold hands. Yu was silent. He could not help but feel a headache coming on. This kid had learned how to act coquettishly. He did not know who he had learned this from. But he did not know who was the first one to act coquettishly. Would he fall for it? It was impossible. Hence, Yu ignored him and walked forward. However, he did not know who had taught Xiao Yichen. Yu refused to hold hands. Would it really work? Hence, without further ado, little Yichen caught up with him and held his soft, fleshy paw without a word. Startled, Yu tried to pull his hand out of his father's grasp. Xiao Yichen held on tightly. The more he struggled, the tighter he held on. Yu was impatient and said coldly, Mu Yichen, let go. No. If you don't, I'll bite you. He could be shameless, but he could also be unreasonable. Xiao Yichen wasn't afraid at all. He taunted, I won't let go even if you bite me. Back then, when they were high up in the sky on the Ferris wheel, he had held onto her hand tightly. Even when it was on the verge of dislocation, even at the very last moment, he had refused to let go. Even if he was bitten, he wouldn't let go. She just wanted to hold his hand. Yu saw the determination on his face and gave up struggling. Biting him was just to scare him. But this kid wasn't scared at all. This was inevitable. He had been training in the special forces since he was young and had experienced all kinds of things. Naturally, he was not afraid of anything. Xiao Yichen got what he wanted. He held his hand tightly and walked side by side with him. His hand was a size bigger than Yu's, so naturally, he was able to hold Yu's little paws in his palm. His hand was so soft. Xiao Yichen couldn't help but pinch his palm. He had a ragdoll cat in the Mu residence. When he was bored, he liked to hold the cat in his arms and pinch its paws. However, Yu's little hand felt better than the cat's paws. It was warm, soft, and extremely cute. Yu's palms, on the other hand, were sensitive and ticklish. Seeing him pinch them, they shrank back a little. Thus, she glared at him, hinting at him to stop before he went too far. Letting him hold her little hand was already a big concession from him. Xiao Yichen understood the warning in his eyes and stopped pinching him. Yu, what do you want to eat? I don't know. Let's walk around and see. He didn't know what he wanted to eat. Now that he was starving, he wasn't as hungry as he was in the hospital. Chapter 854. Yu shook his head. I'm sick of it. Do you eat it every day? I can cook it myself. Yu thought to himself. These Western restaurants were so ostentatious, but the Western food they made was not authentic at all. Furthermore, he often cooked Western food at home. The standards of these Western restaurants were not as good as his. Compared to Western food, he was more interested in Chinese food. Xiao Yichen licked his lips and said, I'm a little hungry too. Actually, I quite like pizza. Pizza tastes terrible, Yu said mercilessly. I don't like pizza. Xiao Yichen was silent for a moment, but he let him be. Okay, let's go find something you like to eat. He smiled gently, but he did not hide the affection in his eyes. Yu looked at him and his heart skipped a beat. He thought that this kid would insist on choosing a restaurant that he liked. He did not expect that he would let him choose. It seemed that this older brother was quite tolerant of him. With that thought, he continued to walk forward. Little Yichen held his brother's hand as they browsed the entire way. Although he did not see a restaurant that Yu wanted to eat at, he still enjoyed this aimless stroll. the two little guys suddenly passed by a grilled fish restaurant. Yu walked to the entrance and could not walk any further. He sniffed and smelled the aroma from the restaurant. It was really mouth-watering. Xiao Yichen could not help but be deeply attracted by the aroma. He could not help but lean forward. Yu, shall we eat grilled fish? Oh, okay. Yu licked his lips. He had never eaten grilled fish before, but the aroma was really tempting. It should be delicious, right? With that thought, he let Xiao Yichen lead him into the restaurant. When they stepped into the restaurant, the greeter at the entrance saw the two little guys walk in. The smile on his face froze and his body froze. These two little munchkins are so cute. They were pink and tender, just like two soft and cute glutinous rice balls. The two little munchkins were wearing shirts and suspenders of the same style, looking like elegant little gentlemen. But, was it just the two of them? Where are their parents? The usher looked behind them. Yu said, "Hello, both of you." Two. The usher was a little surprised. These two little lads looked like they were 6 or 7 years old. They were so young. Did they have the ability to spend money? One had to know that this restaurant was very expensive. Would these two children not have enough money to pay the bill? Thus, she squatted down and asked in a friendly manner, "Children, where are your parents? Just the two of you? Or did he get lost?" "I'm not lost, Auntie. We're here to eat. Please lead us to our seats," Xiao Yichen said politely with a bright smile. As he spoke, he saw that there was still doubt on her face. He said, "I brought money. We won't dine and dash." Even though the usher was puzzled, she could only lead them to their seats and bring them the menu. Yu flipped open the menu and ordered the signature grilled fish and some skewers. Then, he waited patiently for the dishes to be served. It was lunchtime, so there were many people in the restaurant. It was a hubbub of voices and the atmosphere was noisy. Yu took out his cell phone. He had been busy taking care of his mother in the hospital and had put aside the company's work. When he opened his inbox, emails popped out one after another. He browsed through them one by one. Halfway through, Xiao Yichen suddenly snatched his cell phone away. Chapter 855. Little Yichen looked at his father's phone and saw that there were more than a dozen unread emails in his inbox on the screen. Yu was shocked and immediately snatched his phone back. "Why did you snatch my phone?" "I was just bored." Xiao Yichen rested his chin on his hand and looked at him pitifully. "You only care about your phone. There's no one to talk to me." Yu's lips twitched. He did not know what to talk to him about. He felt that he had nothing in common with him. However, he didn't say anything and just quietly put his phone away. No matter how important the matter was, it was not urgent to deal with it after dinner. Thus, the two of them just stared at each other like that. Xiao Yichen looked out of the window and saw people walking to and fro on the street. At this time, many people were strolling on the street. Suddenly, he saw two children playing, chasing each other, and fooling around not far away. He stared at them for a long time until the children disappeared from his sight. Then, he sighed sadly. Suddenly, he thought of something. He looked up and asked excitedly, "Where are we going after dinner?" "Back to the hospital." Yu's reply was concise. Xiao Yichen dragged out the last syllable in disappointment. He held his head and looked disappointed. Compared to him, Yu was more like a mature and steady veteran. He said concisely, "After dinner, we'll go back to the hospital to accompany Mommy." "But I want to go shopping," he said. "It's rare for me to go out. I don't want to rush back." "Where do you want to go?" "The amusement park." Xiao Yichen said, his eyes clear and bright. He thought about the last time he was in Tonghua Valley. He did not have enough fun and still wanted to go back. He did not have time to go on many rides and felt a little regretful. Yu Yu frowned and reminded him in a low voice, Mui Chen, look at the time. The amusement park is closed a long time ago. Oh. Xiao Yichen sighed dejectedly. Yu Yu held his forehead. This kid was really a child. But when he thought about it, it made sense. After all, Mui Chen was at the age where he was playful. Presumably, he rarely had the chance to go out. Mu Yaja was busy with work and rarely had free time. Therefore, he was afraid that he had neglected him, so he rarely went out. Therefore, he did not want to rush home. With that thought in mind, Yu Yu said, if we're done eating, shall we go watch a movie? Sure. Xiao Yichen nodded happily. Are there any good movies recently? Yes, there is one. Yu Yu said, have you seen Zootopia? No. It's an interesting movie. I'll watch it with you, Yu Yu said. Xiao Yichen nodded. Okay. Yu Yu smiled and picked up her phone to book the tickets online. This movie had been very popular recently, and it was hard to get a single ticket. Therefore, at this moment, he could only buy a seat at the back. After booking the tickets, the dishes were quickly served. The grilled fish was fragrant. Together with the skewers, it looked very tempting. Xiao Yichen was already drooling. He eagerly picked up a grilled chicken wing and took a bite. Yu Yu said, don't eat the tip of the wing. Why? Xiao Yichen blinked and stared at him with a puzzled expression. Because the tip of the wing contains toxins. The tip of the wing is equivalent to the lymph nodes of the human body. It's where the toxins are expelled. Xiao Yichen was stunned when he heard that. Chapter 856. I realized that you know quite a lot. Xiao Yichen was a little surprised. You seem to know everything. Every time I cook braised chicken wings, I cut off the tip of the wings, Yu Yu said. When he cooked, he paid more attention to these things. He knew what he could not eat and what was good for his body. Because he had an allergic constitution, he had to pay special attention to these things. His mother also had some things that she could not eat and had to abstain from. Therefore, he paid more attention to these things. Yu Yu had just finished a grilled sausage when he suddenly saw a few waiters staring at them from the corner of his eye. He furrowed his brows and looked a little unhappy. Xiao Yichen followed his gaze and saw a few waiters looking at their table from time to time. He was a little puzzled. Yu Yu, These waiters are so pitiful. Why do you say that? Xiao Yichen said sadly, look, they keep staring at us. They must be hungry. Yu Yu was speechless. Idiot, they're afraid that we won't have the money to pay and run away. That's too petty. Xiao Yichen suddenly opened his school bag and took out a bulging wallet. He placed it on the table. Yu Yu's eyes twitched violently. What are you doing? I'll pay first so that they won't be on guard. As he spoke, he called the waiter over. The waiter immediately rushed over. How can I help you, my friends? I'll pay the bill. Ha! The waiter was stunned. Xiao Yichen raised his eyebrows slightly. I'll pay the bill. The waiter immediately brought the bill. The total is 350 yuan. Xiao Yichen nodded and opened his wallet. In an instant, it was as if a golden light was shining. There were rows of cards in his black wallet, and there was a huge stack of cash in between them. At a glance, there were roughly a few thousand yuan. It was shocking. This child, he was a little rich. To think that they were worried that these two children would not have the money to pay the bill. It seemed that they had worried too much. Xiao Yichen took out 400 yuan and asked them to give him the change. When the waiter brought the change over, his expression had already changed. He was already looking at these two little fellows in a new light. Xiao Yichen raised his eyebrows slightly and said in a slightly dissatisfied tone, "So you don't have to be wary of us eating and dashing anymore." The waiter blushed at their words and immediately apologized again. Yu did not want to listen to their explanation and waved his hand. Xiao Yichen put the wallet away. Yu suddenly asked, "Why do you have so much cash on you?" Not much. For the sake of convenience. Xiao Yichen said. He had many credit cards, but they were all supplementary cards. In fact, he was not old enough to use the supplementary card. If he was not in a mall owned by Mu Group, the counters in other malls would refuse to use the card on account of his young age. Therefore, he always kept cash with him in case of emergency. By the time the two little guys finished their meal, there was only half an hour before the movie started. They rushed back and forth to catch up with the movie. It was not Yu's first time watching a movie at the cinema, but it was Xiao Yichen's first time watching a movie. Therefore, it was inevitable that he was unusually excited. One had to know that he usually watched movies at home in his home theater. However, in terms of atmosphere, the movie theater was the best. Therefore, when the movie started, Xiao Yichen could not calm down. Yu could not help but reach out and knock his head. "Be quiet and watch the movie. If you continue to be so noisy, you will be chased out." Chapter 857. Zootopia was a Hollywood animated film. It was well made and had a lot of laughs. What was even more impressive was that every character was cute and adorable. Xiao Yichen was fascinated by the film and laughed from time to time. Yu, on the other hand, was bored to death and was even a little sleepy. Compared to Xiao Yichen, he was not interested in animated films. He thought that Xiao Yichen would probably like it, so he accompanied him to watch it. There were a few times when he almost fell asleep. Halfway through the movie, just as the plot was getting exciting, Yu was startled by an unusual noise. The rustling sounds of the woman's resistance attracted his attention. It seemed to be made by the person sitting in the front row. Puzzled, Yu poked his head over and saw a scene that made his heart skip a beat. Sitting in the front row was a young girl who was about 19 years old. Sitting next to her was a bald man wearing a black singlet and a large gold chain. There was a long and frightening scar on the back of his head. It looked very hideous. The man's face did not look like a decent person. He was extremely vicious and looked a bit like a delinquent youth. Especially his pair of eyes, they were cunning and wretched. One look and one could tell that he was not a good person. Although it was said that one should not judge a book by its cover, looking at the man's behavior, he turned sideways and placed one hand on the woman's fair thigh, rubbing it back and forth. The woman protested softly, "Don't move. Shoo, don't make a sound." The light in the huge movie theater was extremely dim. Through the faint light reflected off the screen, he could see that the woman's face was frighteningly pale. "I beg you, don't." The woman shook her head and refused while trying to push the man's hand away from her skirt. The man became angry and threatened, "Shut up." As he spoke, he flashed a shiny butterfly knife from his waist. The butterfly knife flashed with a cold light. The woman was so frightened that she did not dare to move anymore. She bit her lips tightly and her eyes were wet. She felt wronged and scared. She tried to stand up and leave several times, but the man held her down by the shoulder. "Play with me for a while." As the man said this, he grabbed her shoulders and pulled her into his embrace. The girl's face was filled with uneasiness and fear. Her wide eyes were filled with helplessness and despair. The cinema was full of people. This round was packed to the brim. However, the people sitting next to the girl were either indifferent or looked straight ahead as if they were watching a movie seriously. They didn't care about it at all, as if they didn't see it at all. There were also some who were frightened by this scene, but did not dare to make a sound. They quietly got up and left. In the blink of an eye, most of the people around the girl had left. Only the girl and the man were left in that row. The girl felt even more isolated and helpless. 2 lines of clear tears rolled down her cheeks as she let out a terrified whimper. She was scared out of her wits, and her entire body trembled violently. If you dare to make even the slightest sound, I can't guarantee what I will do. Behave yourself. The man threatened as he reached his hand into her chest. From time to time, the girl would let out a flustered groan and close her eyes in shame and helplessness. Is this sexual harassment? A phrase suddenly appeared in Yu Yu's mind. He despised this kind of behavior. Chapter 858. However, there was nothing he could do. After all, the man had a butterfly knife on him and was a dangerous person. Yu Yu was contemplating whether he should call the police or report this to the security guards. Xiao Yichen noticed this as well. He stuck his head out and clasped his hands on the back of the chair in front of him. His face was a little angry. Before Yu Yu could stop him, he suddenly spoke. "Uncle, what are you doing?" The man jumped in shock and turned around. When he saw that it was a young child, he glared at him fiercely. "Get lost. Uncle is busy. Don't disturb me." Xiao Yichen wanted to say something, but Yu Yu immediately grabbed his shoulders. "Are you crazy? What's wrong? He has a knife on him. Don't cause trouble. He's a bad guy. He's bullying that girl. This has nothing to do with you, right?" Yu Yu frowned slightly. Although he couldn't stand it, they were still children. They were defenseless and weak. There should be a limit to their bravery. Xiao Yichen asked, "What if the girl sitting there is mommy?" Yu Yu was stunned by this question. Xiao Yichen said, "Yu Yu, don't worry. I won't do anything dangerous." Yu Yu's heart skipped a beat. Wasn't this dangerous? The man had a knife on him. If there was a conflict, the knife would be merciless. Wasn't he afraid? While he was still in a daze, Xiao Yichen stood up and walked to the front row. Just as the man was about to put his hand under the girl's skirt, Xiao Yichen grabbed his wrist forcefully. The man was shocked. He widened his eyes and looked up. When he saw that it was little Munchkin, who he had just scolded, he flew into a rage. "Kid, what are you trying to do?" The girl was also shocked. She looked up hopefully, thinking that someone had come to save her from the abyss of suffering. However, when she looked up, she saw that it was only a 6 or 7-year-old kid. Her hopes seemed to have been washed away by a basin of cold water. Her face turned ashen again. Little Yichen glanced at her before shifting his gaze to the man. He sized him up from head to toe until his gaze landed on the man's shameful part, where a small tent stood tall. His heart was filled with disgust. "Uncle, haven't you heard of an old saying?" The man was stunned. He had thought that the child would be scared away by his ferocious face. But he didn't expect this kid to be so daring. What kind of lady is she? A gentleman has his own way. As soon as he said that, the girl beside him looked like she did not know whether to laugh or cry. Was there such a saying? The man was also stunned. Who sent this kid to be a clown? Get lost. The man impatiently tried to shake off the kid's hand. However, he realized that the kid's hand did not budge even though he was using so much force. Instead, he tightened his grip. The man's arm was thick and strong, so his small hand was just enough to hold it. However, he didn't know where the kid's strength came from, but it actually hurt him. If the kid used more force, he was afraid that the kid would break his wrist. "You little brat, how dare you interrupt me? I told you to get lost. Didn't you hear me?" Chapter 859. His hands were twisted together in a strange position, and the pain made him break out in cold sweat. "Ah!" the man screamed. He did not expect a child to be so strong. "Uncle, what do you mean by, I'm disturbing you?" None of your business. This is my woman, my wife. What I do has nothing to do with you. The man cursed unhappily. Your wife. Xiao Yichen blinked his big clear eyes and smiled wittily. Then, he turned around and asked the girl, "Are you his girlfriend?" The girl was already dumbfounded. Seeing a child like him being able to hold on to such a strong man, she also felt that it was inconceivable. However, it was as if she was grabbing onto a life-saving straw. When he asked, she immediately explained incoherently, "No. No, I don't know him." Oh. Xiao Yichen nodded and said to the man, "Look, she doesn't know you. Why, are you trying to use force to force her to submit? You're so dirty." The man's face turned red and he threatened, "You little brat, what does it have to do with you? If you don't want to die, let go of my hand. Otherwise, I'll stab you to death." The girl said with tears in her eyes, "Little brother, I really don't know him. He's a hooligan, and he's threatening me. Sob, please, save me." She did not know why she had placed all her hopes on a 6 or 7-year-old little boy. However, although this little boy was young, he gave people a great sense of security. The man said angrily, "B*tch, shut up." As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Yichen stepped on his toes. The man was wearing flip-flops, so his toes felt like they were going to be crushed under the force of Xiao Yichen's stomp. He immediately howled in pain and broke out in cold sweat. He tried his best to break free, but the child's strength was so great that he could not break free no matter how hard he tried. Xiao Yichen said slowly and elegantly, "Uncle, you have to be more gentlemanly when you treat a lady." The sound of their conflict attracted the attention of other people in the theater. Seeing that the child had made a move, the other men felt ashamed, but at the same time, they seemed to have gained confidence. They walked forward and subdued the man. Yu rushed over with the cinema's security. However, when he arrived, he saw the man being pinned to the ground and little Yichen stepping on his head from above. He, too, was momentarily stunned on the spot. What was going on? Just now, when Xiao Yichen walked over, he was afraid that something would happen, so he hurriedly went to look for the security. However, it was different from what he had imagined. She thought that this man was very powerful, but she didn't expect him to be a weakling. The security guards dragged the man out of the theater and apologized to the audience. The girl was greatly frightened. She could no longer watch the movie. She tidied herself up and planned to leave. Before she left, she bowed deeply to Xiao Yichen and said, "Little brother, thank you. Thank you for being willing to help me. If it wasn't for you, I really wouldn't know what to do. Thank you." "Sister, did you come to watch the movie alone?" I came with my boyfriend." The girl suddenly touched her sore spot. She could no longer hold back her tears, and they flowed down her face. "Where's your boyfriend?" Yu looked confused. Chapter 860. The girl recounted what had just happened. It turned out that the hooligan had been sitting in her boyfriend's seat. She had entered the scene first and her boyfriend had gone to buy popcorn. Before the movie had even started, the hooligan had sat beside her. She had immediately reminded him that the seat was taken, but he had remained seated. When her boyfriend had arrived, the two of them had gotten into an argument. What she didn't expect was that her beloved boyfriend at first tried to reason with this delinquent youth. However, when this delinquent showed the butterfly knife in his hand, her boyfriend was forced to flee in fear, leaving her alone. Thus, she had been completely disheartened. When the girl had left, the movie was nearing its end. Xiao Yichen had already lost interest in the movie, so the two of them left the theater one after another. Yu had yet to recover from his shock. "Mu Yichen, weren't you afraid just now?" Yu had to ask the question that had been bothering him. What was there to be afraid of? Xiao Yichen raised his eyebrows in confusion. That man had a knife in his hand. So what? If he had stabbed you with the knife, would you not have been afraid? Yu still had lingering fears and looked uneasy. He had been really afraid just now. If that man had really lost his mind and stabbed him with the knife, he did not dare to think about the consequences. Xiao Yichen thought about it carefully and suddenly smirked. The condition is that he has to stab me. Yu was stunned by his arrogant and disdainful words. Xiao Yichen saw that his eyes were still filled with uneasiness and shock. He could not help but move closer and nudge him with his elbow. Do you think that your brother is very powerful? Yu rolled his eyes. Don't be so full of yourself. Xiao Yichen glanced at him and suddenly thought of something. A gentle smile appeared on his face. Then, were you very worried about me just now? Just now, when Yu had rushed over with the bodyguards, he had clearly seen the worried look on her face. This younger brother of his was a little tsundere. He might not say it on the surface, but he might be worried in his heart. He must be worried about him, afraid that he would get hurt. Yu glanced at him coldly but remained silent. Xiao Yichen immediately shouted in dissatisfaction, "What's with that look?" "Nothing. Let's go." Yu snorted and walked forward. Seeing this, Xiao Yichen hurriedly chased after him and held his hand tightly. Yu was stunned and instinctively wanted to shake off his hand. However, Mu Yichen held on tightly and did not allow him to break free. Yu, don't worry. I will only do things if I am confident. I won't do anything risky. Xiao Yichen explained in a serious tone. Yu grunted gloomily. Next time, don't do this again. It makes me very worried. Xiao Yichen's expression did not change, but he was secretly laughing in his heart. This rascal was still so stubborn. He was clearly very worried about him, wasn't he? Who asked his younger brother to be so tsundere? He was clearly very concerned about him, but he never said anything. Xiao Yichen's mood lightened because of Yu's silent concern. Yu, your brother is very powerful, very strong. So, I will definitely protect you. Your brother is very strong. So, I will definitely protect you. Chapter 861. Yu's heart skipped a beat, but he didn't say anything. He turned his head away awkwardly, but the corners of his mouth curled into a subtle smile. After walking out of the theater, they arrived at a huge shopping mall. There was an ice cream cart at the entrance of the mall. There were many pre-made popsicles on the cart. They were exactly the same as the ones sold by Fox Nick in Zootopia. Xiao Yichen asked, Yu, do you want to eat a popsicle? Yes. Yu licked his pink lips and nodded. Xiao Yichen asked him to wait for him at the same spot and told him to take care of his wallet. Then, he went to buy the popsicles. Yu was waiting at the same spot when he suddenly felt a chill coming from behind him. His intuition was extremely sensitive, so when he glanced back, he saw a large male palm reaching towards him, covering his mouth tightly. Yu didn't even have the chance to struggle before he lost all resistance. When Xiao Yichen returned to the same spot after buying the popsicles, he realized that Yu was nowhere to be seen. He frowned and looked around in surprise. However, he couldn't find any trace of Yu. Where did he go? He bit his lip and felt that something was amiss. He didn't know what was going on. Yu was gone. Where did he go? Could it be that he went to visit other stores? That was impossible. Yu wouldn't go anywhere. He must have been waiting for him at the same spot. Where could he have gone? Xiao Yichen was so anxious that a thin layer of sweat appeared on his forehead. Yu was carried out of the shopping mall by the man. He walked quickly. He widened his eyes and struggled with all his might. However, the man's strength made it impossible for him to resist. He held him tightly in his arms and his mouth was covered by his large hand. He couldn't make a sound. Was this a kidnapping? Or had he been abducted? He was a little surprised. He had no idea who this man was. The news that he had seen a few days ago suddenly flashed through his mind. It was said that a child was taken away by a human trafficker in a big shopping mall. The child was crying non-stop and attracted a crowd. However, the human trafficker was very clever. In the face of the crowd's doubts, he calmly said that the child was disobedient and needed to be disciplined. He claimed to be the child's father. However, no matter how much the child cried and screamed, "You are not my father. You're not my father." However, the crowd still did not suspect him. Most of them were just there to join in the fun and watch. In essence, they were indifferent. Thus, the poor child was abducted just like that, and his whereabouts were still unknown. Yu broke out in a cold sweat. Could it be that he had been kidnapped? With such suspicions, he looked around and suddenly caught a glimpse of a large gold chain around the man's neck. An ominous suspicion arose in his heart. Could it be that delinquent youth from the cinema just now? He didn't remember wrongly. Earlier in the cinema, although the lights were dim and he couldn't see the man's face clearly, he remembered one thing clearly. That was that the man was wearing a gold chain around his neck. He looked like a ruffian. Then it must be this man. Could it be that this man was here for revenge? Without waiting for him to think too much, the man carried him to a secluded alley where no one seemed to pass by and threw him on the ground. Chapter 862. His shoulder, in particular, had hit the ground and almost dislocated it. He hugged his shoulder and sat up from the ground. When he looked up, he saw that the man was indeed the delinquent from the movie theater. He held his bald head with his large palm and glared at him with a pair of fierce and gangster-like eyes. He immediately scolded him. "Brat! Damn it, you're really something. You almost made me go to the police station for tea. Damn it, you're so capable at such a young age." Yu bit his lip hard. The man probably thought that he was Xiao Yichen. Earlier in the movie theater, the man did not realize that the two little guys were twins. However, he remembered Xiao Yichen's appearance very clearly. He thought about how the brat's interruption had ruined his plans and almost made him go to the police station. Just thinking about it made the man furious. He had been running amok on the black street for so many years, but he did not expect to almost fall into the hands of a brat who had not even been weaned off milk. Of course, he was furious. After being chased out of the movie theater, he was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, he waited at the entrance of the movie theater. He wanted to wait for the arrogant brat to leave the movie theater so that he could beat him up. Damn it! Brat, where did you get such great skills? How dare you go against me? You're so arrogant at such a young age. The bald man squatted down in front of him and slapped him hard on the cheek. Yu turned his face expressionlessly and glared at him coldly. The bald man was surprised and said, Little brat, have you learned your lesson? What's wrong? You were so arrogant just now. Why are you afraid now? You're not saying anything. Aren't you very capable? Now you don't even dare to say a word." Yu shrunk his shoulders and his eyes were full of disgust. It was as if he was disgusted by the man's touch. He had always been polite and well-behaved. He rarely cursed or even scolded someone. However, when faced with this man, he could not help but want to call him trash. He used his power to bully others. He had nothing but power, so he used it to bully the weak. He was the most shameless. However, he knew that if he cursed out loud, he would definitely anger this man. He wasn't Xiao Yichen. He wasn't that capable. Based on what he saw, this man was probably a gangster. He didn't want to provoke a gangster. Therefore, Yu kept her mouth shut and did not dare to say anything. Sometimes, one had to learn how to endure humiliation. If she spoke too fast and angered this man, she would be covered in wounds. Mommy was going to be sad again. He didn't want to upset his mommy. The man saw that he was silent, but he became more and more angry. He scolded and kicked up. Damn it. Say something. You were so arrogant just now. Why are you acting like a retard now? Do you know how to speak human language? The strength of this kick was not small. Yu was immediately kicked to the ground. She was in so much pain that she broke out in cold sweat. The man stepped on the back of Yu's hand, and Yu cried out in pain. Ha! Does it hurt? With this hand of yours, weren't you very capable just now? Why can't you use any strength now? The man humiliated him as he twisted his heel and stomped on his hand again and again. Chapter 863. Despite the increasing pain in his hand, Yu still kept his mouth shut and did not utter a sound. Not to mention begging for mercy, he did not even groan in pain. Damn it! You little brat, you sure have a tough mouth. The man slapped her in the face again. Yu's face was turned to the side from the slap. At the same time, the wallet in his arms fell to the ground. Yu was shocked and reached out to pick up the wallet. However, the man was one step ahead of him and snatched the wallet away. The bald man snorted coldly and smiled evilly. He opened the wallet and saw stacks of cash and rows of exquisite credit cards. Oh. Are you a rich kid? The man was shocked. Then, he smirked evilly. I didn't expect you to be a rich kid. You have so much money on you. You must be extremely wealthy, right? Yu's brows furrowed deeply as he demanded in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, return my wallet to me. Is this your wallet? The man smirked. Did you say this is your wallet? Ha! Now, this wallet belongs to me. Yu was furious. This was Xiao Yichen's wallet. Now that it was in the man's hands, he felt that this wallet was tainted by his dirty hands. Disgusting, this is my wallet. Please don't touch it. Not even a finger could do it. He found it dirty. You little brat, you don't seem to be sensible at all. You interrupted me just now. Not only did I not teach you a lesson, you even dared to talk back to me. The man was so angry that he slapped Yu's face again. Yu felt 2 slaps on his face. His cheeks were burning and the pain was unbearable. Tears welled up in his eyes as he felt wronged. However, he was so stubborn that he did not want this scum to see him in such a weak state. He forced his tears back and stubbornly raised his head. He glared coldly at the man. His gaze was like a sharp and cold knife. It was as if he wanted to kill him with his gaze. The man snorted in disdain. You brat, you're quite stubborn. Looks like I have to teach you a lesson. With that, the man spat and grabbed Yu's collar. Just as he was about to give him a kick, a childish voice was heard from behind. Get lost. I won't allow you to touch a single strand of my brother's hair. The bald man was stunned. Before he could react to the situation, he felt a fierce murderous aura coming from behind him. He turned his head abruptly and saw a child standing at the entrance of the alley. Under the moonlight, his shadow stretched diagonally across the alley. In the dim light, he could vaguely see that this child with an overbearing aura had the same appearance as the child in his hands. The bald man was stunned. At the same time, he looked back at the child in his hand. For a moment, he felt as if he had seen a ghost. Why did these 2 brats look exactly the same? Who the fuck are you? Xiao Yichen followed the location on his watch. When he passed by the alley, he heard the man cursing and immediately rushed over. He happened to see this scene. Seeing that this man dared to be violent towards his little brother, Xiao Yichen was furious. He immediately rushed over and kicked the wall. Using the wall as leverage, he sent a flying kick towards the man's face. Chapter 864. The bald man felt as if his entire back had been hit by a powerful force. His internal organs were in turmoil from the shock, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Cough, cough, cough. The man was in so much pain that he frowned. His mouth twitched for a while before he spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with a few broken teeth. He did not know how such a young child could be so skillful. That one roundhouse kick had actually broken 3 or 4 of his teeth. The man wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at the pool of blood on the ground. He licked his broken teeth with the tip of his tongue and suddenly raised his head, glaring fiercely at the boy. Xiao Yichen did not seem to care about him at all. He immediately helped Yu up and carefully checked the wounds on his body. His cheeks were red, and his clothes were stained with dirty footprints. There was no need to think about how ruthless this man had been. Did he hit you? Yu pursed her pink lips and nodded gently. He did. Just as he finished speaking, Xiao Yichen's anger surged, and for a moment, his domineering aura spread to every corner of the alley. At this moment, the aura on his body changed drastically. The smile on his face, which was always filled with innocence and cuteness, had completely faded. It was replaced by a layer of chilling coldness that made one's heart palpitate. It was so cold that it was as if a layer of ice had covered it. F***CKU. You hit me so hard. If I don't teach you a lesson, you won't know your place. F***CK. The man cursed and got up from the ground. Then, he took out a sharp butterfly knife from his pocket and swung it a few times in the air. A few cold glints flashed across Xiao Yichen's eyes. The man was swinging the butterfly knife while closing in on him. Originally, he thought that when he pulled out his saber, this kid's face would reveal a terrified and shocked expression, and he would be frightened by him. However, little Yicheng's face was still as cold as ever, as if he was not afraid at all. Only the coldness in his beautiful eyes deepened. Yu suddenly reached out and tugged at the corner of Xiao Yichen's shirt. Seeing that the man had pulled out a knife, Yu suddenly lost his confidence. She knew that Xiao Yichen was skilled in martial arts, but the man was carrying a knife. What if he was accidentally stabbed? He didn't want his stupid brother to get hurt. Xiao Yichen noticed that he was tugging at the corner of his shirt and turned around to look at him. What happened? He has a knife on him. Yu wanted to say something but hesitated, not knowing what to say. However, the worry in his eyes could not be concealed. Xiao Yichen looked into his eyes and saw the deep worry in his eyes. Only then did his icy expression soften a little. He could tell that his younger brother was worried about him. Therefore, he comforted her, "Don't worry. I'm fine. Go and call the police now." Yu was about to speak when he saw the man rushing toward Xiao Yichen with a knife. The knife in his hand was about to stab Xiao Yichen in the next second. He was so frightened that he wanted to pull Xiao Yichen behind him. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Yichen suddenly turned around and grabbed the man's wrist that was holding the knife tightly. Time seemed to stop at this moment. He opened his eyes and held the man's hand tightly. The knife in the man's hand was pointed at his face, and the tip of the knife was only an inch away from his eyes. Chapter 865. If little Yichen's reaction had been a few seconds later, the knife would have pierced his eyes without a second thought. The consequences would have been unimaginable. There was even a moment when he imagined Xiao Yichen being stabbed in the eye. His heartbeat quickened. The man struggled a few times, but Xiao Yichen's strength was unbelievably strong. He gripped the man's wrist tightly and did not allow him to resist. The bald man could not believe his eyes. After all, he had been in the Black Street for so many years and had experienced many killings. Every opponent he met was stronger and taller than this child. He was a hooligan and often got into fights. Moreover, it was real fights. Just the scar on the back of his head was left there by someone. It was a bloody mess and the wound was almost a millimeter deep. If it was any deeper, he would have lost his life. It could be said that he had been through life and death for so many years. Naturally, his strength was not to be underestimated. He originally thought that this child would have some skills because he had been trained since he was young. However, he did not expect him to be so strong that he could not move at all with just one hand on his wrist. He did not consider that he was just a gangster and that his so-called killings were only for small fries. However, he did not consider that Xiao Yi-chen had been arranged by Mu Yaja to train in the special forces since he was young. The soldiers who were trained in the special forces were true war machines. They were all warriors who licked the blood from the muzzle of their guns. Although Xiao Yi-chen was young, he had grown up in the special forces training camp. Strictly speaking, he was still inferior to those special forces soldiers. However, it was still a piece of cake to deal with him. Xiao Yi-chen twisted the man's wrist slightly. A crack was heard, which sounded like a dislocated joint. The man groaned and the butterfly knife in his hand fell to the ground. Xiao Yi-chen kicked the knife away and looked up at the man's face again. The provocation and contempt in his eyes were self-evident. The man was so shocked that large beads of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. His entire face changed. Xiao Yi-chen snorted in disdain, but more than that, he was looking down on Xiao Yi-chen. Then, he raised his leg and kicked Xiao Yi-chen's crotch. The man was in so much pain that he arched his body. His lower body went limp and he fell to the ground, his legs twitching uncontrollably. Stinking brat. F***ck, you dare to kick me. The man was unwilling and even more unconvinced. Even though he was rolling on the ground while covering his crotch, he still couldn't help but curse a few times. Xiao Yi-chen walked over. This time, he did not show any mercy and kicked him hard in the face. Simple and crude moves, almost without any technique, but every move was aimed at the bridge of his nose. Which dirty hand did you use to touch my brother? Xiao Yi-chen stepped on his head with one foot. His gaze fell on his flailing arms, and his other foot suddenly stepped on his right hand. This one? He asked casually and raised his eyebrows. His tone was cold and dangerous. Let go. The man cursed. Xiao Yi-chen increased the strength of his foot and brazenly stomped on his face. Shut up. Bang. Xiao Yi-chen kicked the bridge of his nose again. The man groaned and was in so much pain that tears rolled down his cheeks. Chapter 866. Yu, who was standing at the side, was dumbfounded. This stupid brother of his, he thought that other than a cute face, there was nothing good about him. He did not expect him to be so powerful. He was much more powerful than he had imagined. He was like a cold warrior. For a moment, he seemed to see Mu Yaja's arrogant and domineering shadow in him. He was handsome. Even though he did not want to admit it, he had to admit that Xiao Yi-chen was elegant and handsome. Brother. Xiao Yi-chen turned around and looked at him. Yu immediately walked over. Brother, where did this guy touch you just now? He slapped me twice. And? Xiao Yi-chen asked again. He kicked my shoulder. Come here and return what he gave you just now. Xiao Yi-chen said. Yu was stunned and shook his head. Why? You don't dare. Xiao Yi-chen looked confused. The man at his feet did not dare to speak. He was like a dead fish waiting to be slaughtered. He had no other choice but to surrender. Even though he did not want to admit it, he had to admit that this kid was a ruthless character. Don't be afraid. I'm not afraid. Yu looked at the man who was pinned to the ground by Xiao Yichen and said coldly, I just feel disgusted. I don't want to dirty my hands. He had a serious obsession with cleanliness. This man was too disgusting. He did not want to touch him at all. Xiao Yichen snorted and turned around. His gaze fell on the man at his feet. It's disgusting. However, Daddy told me that force is not used to bully the weak. It is used to protect the people you love. Force is used to protect the people you love. It is also used to protect your family. As he thought of this, he stepped on the man's hand and crushed it with his heel. A strange sound was heard and the man's wrist was crushed. The bald man groaned in pain. His eyes were bloodshot as if they had been pierced by needles. Xiao Yichen stepped on his other hand and crushed it hard. With a crack, his other hand was also crippled. Ah! The man couldn't hold it in any longer and let out a cry of pain like a pig being slaughtered. The veins on his forehead bulged. He couldn't bear the double pain and immediately begged for mercy. Please, don't. Xiao Yichen ignored his pleas. He grabbed his shirt and pulled him up from the ground. Then, he kicked him like a rubber ball and sent him flying a few meters away. Bang! The man was like a kite with a broken string as he fell into the corner. His head was bleeding profusely. Can't even withstand a single blow. Xiao Yichen harumphed coldly, then turned around with a gentle smile on his face. He gently held Yu Yu's hand and said, let's go back. Okay. Just as the two little lads were about to leave, the man's cold and vicious curses came from behind them. You two brats, do you know who I am? How dare you touch me? Don't let me see you again. Otherwise, I'll kill you. Oh. Yu suddenly stopped in his tracks and slowly turned his head around. His voice was cold as he asked, who do you work for? Why don't you tell me? Chapter 867. Yu's eyes darkened. Silver Wolf Gang. He paused for a moment before a sly smile appeared on his face. Okay, I'll remember that. With that, his lips curled into a cold smirk as he left with little Yichen. The man stared at the backs of the two children as they left. For some reason, he felt a bone-chilling fear. Before returning to the hospital, Yu specially went to a children's clothing store to change out of his dirty clothes and buy a new set of clothes. He did not want his mother to see the shoe prints on his clothes and did not want her to worry. He also bought a mask to remove the slap mark on his face. Hence, when the two children returned to the ward, Yun Shishir was shocked to see Yu wearing a mask. Yu, why are you wearing a mask? Yu's voice was muffled through the mask. There are many viruses in the hospital. My immune system is weak and I'm afraid of being infected. Recently, there were many people who caught colds during the summer. Yun Shishir understood what was going on. Yu's immune system was especially weak. Since there were many viruses in the hospital, wearing a mask could protect him from being infected. Mu Yaja had already settled the discharge procedures for her and the family drove home. As soon as they reached home, Yu entered the study and locked the door. Xiao Yichen walked to the door and knocked. He wanted to follow them in, but Yu's voice was heard. I want to read. Don't disturb me. Read? Xiao Yichen's head swelled when he heard the word read. Yu locked himself in the study and took off the mask on his face. His face was still burning. He touched his face gently. Even though Xiao Yichen had taught that man a lesson, the humiliation in his heart could not be erased. Was this the feeling of being humiliated? Yu pursed his lips as a cold glint flashed across his eyes. He sat on the computer chair and leaned back slightly. He took out his phone and dialed Li Hanlin's number. The call went through quickly. President Yun, why are you, Agent Li? Yu was impatient and interrupted his long speech. Li Hanlin immediately said, Go ahead. Silver Wolf Gang. What kind of organization is it? Silver Wolf Gang. Lee Hanlon's voice was filled with doubt. I don't know much about it. Check and give me the results as soon as possible, Yu instructed and hung up the phone. Someone gently knocked on the door. The boy looked up. Who is it? It's me. Yu, let me in, Xiao Yichen said weakly. I don't want to be disturbed when I'm reading. Yu caressed his red and swollen face. He did not want anyone to see him in such a sorry state. Let me in, will you? I'm worried about you, Xiao Yichen said carefully. Yu remained silent and turned on his computer. He did not want to talk to him. Little Yichen patiently knocked on the door again and again. When he saw that Yu was still unwilling to open the door, he whispered, if you don't open your mouth, I'll tell mommy that you. Before he could finish his sentence, Yu immediately stood up and walked to the door. He opened it with a look of displeasure. Xiao Yichen was delighted when he saw that he had finally opened the door. Yu glanced at him coldly. Mu Yichen, if you dare tell mommy about what happened today, I'll beat you up. Chapter 868. Xiao Yichen immediately dashed into the study, closed the door, and locked it. His heart ached as he looked at Yichen's swollen face. I saw that your face was swollen, so, he held Yichen's hand and pushed him back into the chair. Then, he carefully wet a towel with cold water and wiped Yichen's face. Xiao Yichen stared at Yichen's face. He was very careful with the strength of his hand, afraid that he would accidentally hurt Yichen. Yu was stunned. He looked at Xiao Yichen's face up close. His expression was cautious and his movements were very gentle. He was afraid that he would accidentally hurt Yichen if he did not control the strength of his hand. Xiao Yichen looked at Yichen's swollen face, pouted, and blew on it. Your face is swollen. Does it hurt? He asked softly. It doesn't hurt. Yu pursed his lips stubbornly. Xiao Yichen increased the strength of his hand, causing Yu to gasp in pain. How dare you say it doesn't hurt? Xiao Yichen said helplessly, your face is so swollen. How can it not hurt? Don't tell mommy. Yu immediately warned him. Don't let mommy know about this. Why? Xiao Yichen did not understand. Why don't you let mommy know that you're injured? She'll be heartbroken. Then, she'll cry again. Then, Yichen would have no choice but to try his best to comfort his stupid mommy. Xiao Yichen was stunned. He raised his eyebrows but did not say anything. His gaze fell on Yichen's swollen face as he carefully continued to massage Yichen's face. The cold towel was applied to Yichen's burning face, and the pain dissipated a little. Xiao Yichen gently applied a cold compress on Yichen's face as he said, I often got injured when I was young. Injured? That's because I've been training in the military since I was a child. It's normal for me to get bruises and bruises. Xiao Yichen pursed his lips as he recalled his sad past. You're training in the military. Yu's eyes widened in disbelief. Why? Because Daddy wants to train me. Daddy said that boys should know how to endure hardships from a young age and practice some skills. This way, when they grow up, they will be able to protect their loved ones. As Xiao Yichen spoke, he paused and said with some distress, in the past, I really didn't understand why the other children had such a happy life, but I had no choice but to stay in the military and receive such boring training. Every time I got hurt, no one comforted me or encouraged me. Training in the army is really tough. There was once when I was training in the wild, I was accidentally bitten by a snake and bled a lot. As he spoke, Xiao Yichen's hands suddenly stopped moving. Did you know? It's a very thin and long snake. I don't know if it's poisonous, but it bit my ankle. It was so painful that tears came out of my eyes. As he narrated, the scene vividly appeared in Yu Yu's mind. The thought of the snake wriggling in the grass, especially when it raised its head and flicked its bright red tongue continuously, sent chills down Yi Chen's spine. It must have been very painful. Yu Yu frowned slightly. Just imagining that scene was enough to make one fearful. Of course it was very painful. After I was bitten, I used a knife to pry the snake away. I didn't walk far before I fainted. Yi Chen pursed his lips. Then, when I woke up, I was already in the hospital. I heard from the captain that the snake was poisonous. Fortunately, we found it in time. Otherwise, I would have died. Chapter 869. Yu Yu's heart skipped a beat. He did not expect Yi Chen to be so powerful. How much had he gone through to become so strong? He had thought that this kid was not human. He was so small, yet he was able to fight against an adult thug. It was truly shocking. It turned out that he had gone through hellish training in the army since he was young. Yu Yu asked again, what happened after that? Yi Chen pursed his lips. After that, I recuperated for a while and returned to the army for training. Yu Yu was speechless. Based on Yun Shishir's personality, she would have been heartbroken and would not have let her beloved go through that torture. The training in the army is dry, tedious, and especially cruel. There is no winning or losing. There is only life and death. Yi Chen spoke calmly. He did not think that it was a mistake for his daddy to arrange for him to enter the army for training. I didn't understand in the past, but I do now. Daddy said that the weak are prey to the strong in this world. No matter what the rules are, they are decided by the strong. Therefore, I want to be a strong person and protect my beloved family. The weak are prey to the strong. The rules are decided by the strong. In the past, he did not understand and felt that his daddy's decision was too cruel. He had almost lost his life a few times and almost had a brush with death. But now, he understood. That's why, sometimes, I really envy you. Yu Yu looked up at him in disbelief. This kid said that he envied him. That was because he did not understand how he had lived for the past 7 years. If he did, he would not have said such things. It was getting late. Mu Yaja received a call and rushed back to the office. Yun Shishir carried Yi Chen to the bathroom for a shower. Yu Yu was in the study reading the emails that he had not read yet. Li Hanlin called to say that he had investigated the matter. The Silver Wolf Gang is a group of thugs from the East Street. The East Street is the territory of the Gu family. East Street, a famous black street in the capital. The Li Dongqiang he knew was a small fry in the East Street. And this East Street was under the jurisdiction of the Gu family. The Gu family can be said to be a powerful family that exists side by side with the Mu family. In the past few years, they have used some means to whitewash many of the black assets under their name and set up a listed company. After all, they are a century-old family and still have many forces entrenched in the capital. East Street was one of the assets under the Gu family's name. In the Gu family, other than the head of the family, Gu Jinglian, the Gu family was divided into 2 branches and 4 halls, all of which were headed by members of the Gu family elder cabinet. This Eastern Street was under the jurisdiction of the Vermilion Bird Hall's hall master, Gu Aoshue. It was said that the Silver Wolf group that Gu Aoshue had set up on East Street was actually a debt collection company. To put it bluntly, it was a debt collection company. Debt collection company. Chapter 870. The Silver Wolf group had a bad reputation. In order to get back their debts, they would resort to any means possible. Apart from that, the Silver Wolf Group was also in charge of the biggest underground casino under the Gu family. They were very rampant. Director Yun, why did you ask me to investigate the Silver Wolf Group? Agent Li, I understood something yesterday, Yu Yu suddenly said. Li Hanlin was stunned. Yu Yu said calmly, this world is crueler than I thought. It's the law of the jungle. The weak will never be able to set the rules. That's why I want to become stronger. Then, what you mean is, the hurricane group wanted me to join them. I'll make my decision as soon as possible. Yu hung up the phone after he finished speaking. He threw his phone on the sofa and walked to the window. He looked out of the window silently, his eyes deep in thought. Early in the morning, Yun Shishir was planning to go to the supermarket to buy some hygiene products. Before she left, she received a call from Xiao Shui. She had not contacted Xiao Shui for a long time. Ever since she returned to China, she had rarely contacted her. She would occasionally send her messages to ask about her well-being. It was said that after she returned to China, her family arranged for her to work in a foreign company. As a newcomer, she needed time to adapt to the environment. Hence, she disappeared without a trace. After picking up the phone, Xiao Shui wailed, "Shishir, I'm finally on leave. It's my day off today. Let's go out for coffee. I haven't heard from you for a long time. I thought you disappeared from the face of the earth." Yun Shishir chuckled. You know, newcomers have to hand over their work when they just joined the company. Sigh, I'm going to be tortured to death. I'm in a terrible fix. If I don't have a day off, I'm afraid I'll be overworked soon. Xiao Shui complained as she cursed her immediate superior. I didn't expect you to be so patient. Yun Shishir was surprised. If you were in the past, you would have quit long ago. I was immature in the past. Now that I've been an adult for so long, I should have some sense of responsibility, right? Xiao Shui said with a grin. Then, she asked her, 2:00 in the afternoon at the Peninsula Cafe. Be there or be square. Just like that, they made a promise to the world. In the afternoon, Yun Shishir dressed up and went out early. She specially went to the dessert shop to buy Xiao Shui's favorite vanilla pancake and hurried over. When they arrived at the Peninsula Cafe, Yun Shishir sat at the reserved seat. Because she came early, Xiao Shuiren had not arrived yet. She first ordered a cup of mocha frappuccino, leaned on the sofa comfortably, and looked out of the window at the street scenery outside. In the afternoon, the warm sun shone on her body. She closed her eyes comfortably. The weather tonight wasn't too hot, and the temperature was just right. She even felt a little sleepy, so she simply curled up on the sofa, closed her eyes, and pretended to sleep. When Xiao Shui arrived, she happened to see a portrait of a beauty. Yun Shishir was nestled in the corner of the sofa. The warm sunlight outside the window shone on her cheeks, making her skin look as white as jade. Drunk on the fragrance of a beauty, for some reason, this word suddenly popped into Xiao Shui's mind. They hadn't met for a long time, and Yun Shishir suddenly became charming. It was probably because she had been too busy with work in the past and neglected her own appearance. Chapter 871. Yun Shishir felt awkward at first, but her manager said, "You're not famous now, but when the movie is released and you become famous, if the media publishes those sneaky photos of you dressed so shabbily and without class, they'll think that I'm abusing you." Yun Shishir had no way of rejecting his offer. Thus, beautiful clothes of various styles filled her entire wardrobe. In fact, she was the kind of woman who let nature take its course. She was not good at clothes, and her manager often complained about it. Xiao Shui was gratified. A while ago, Yun Shishir was very popular on Weibo, so much so that Xiao Shui, who did not use Weibo often, developed the habit of scrolling through it. She was sincerely happy for her. Shishir. Xiao Shui called out a few times tentatively. Yun Shishir opened her eyes abruptly and woke up. When she saw her friend's warm smile, she could not help but smile. Xiao Shui, you're here. There was a traffic jam for half an hour because of a car accident. Boo-hoo. Shishir, you must have waited for a long time. It's okay, her words came to an abrupt halt. Yun Shishir caught a glimpse of an unfamiliar man standing beside her and could not help but be startled. Xiao Shui followed her gaze and saw the man beside her. She immediately hooked her arm around his and leaned her head on him like a little bird, introducing him generously. Shishir, let me introduce you. This is my boyfriend, Gao Nan. We've been dating for a month. Today is our 1-month anniversary, hee hee. You don't mind that I brought my boyfriend along, right? Yun Shishir's face was blank for a moment before she smiled. Why would I mind? It's just a little too sudden. Gao Nan immediately stepped forward and extended his hand to Yun Shishir, saying politely, Hello, Shishir. I'm Gao Nan, Xiao Shui's colleague and boyfriend. She often talks about you. For some reason, the man's gaze on her made her feel particularly uncomfortable. She did not know if it was an illusion or something, but she felt that the man's gaze was particularly deep when he looked at her. It was so deep that it made her hair stand on end. However, his gaze soon returned to normal. Hello. Yun Shishir shook his hand. However, when she wanted to withdraw her hand, the man's grip tightened. Yun Shishir's face embarrassed, and she pulled her hand back. What's wrong with this man? It's so strange. Why is he holding my hand so tightly? Yun Shishir's impression of the man instantly. She felt that the man's gaze on her, and it was especially uncomfortable. Xiao Shui and Gao Nan, and the waiter. She ordered 2 cups, coffee, and snacks. Shishir's coffee, 2, Gao Nan's, who was the woman's. Before Yun Shishir could reply, Xiao Shui shook her head. Shishir has never liked coffee. Why? Gao Nan's attention seemed to be especially focused on Yun Shishir. He looked at her and smiled politely. Coffee may be bitter, but it's especially fragrant when it's added. I don't like coffee. Thank you. Yun Shishir politely declined. Since she said so, Gao Nan could not say anything else. Chapter 872. Since Shishir doesn't like coffee, why did you ask her to meet you in a cafe? He asked with a smile. Xiao Shui giggled, because I like coffee. Besides, coffee isn't the only thing here. For example, Shishir likes the mocha frappuccino here. Every time we come here, I'll order a Blue Mountain and she'll order a mocha frappuccino. That's how we spend the whole afternoon. Then, let's order another mocha frappuccino for Shishir. Seeing that Yun Shishir's mocha frappuccino was almost half filled, the man suggested. Yun Shishir immediately shook her head. No need. It's not good to drink too much of the sweet stuff. Yes. You'll get sick of it if you drink too much. Besides, Shishir is a superstar now, so she has to maintain her figure. Only then did he say, Shishir, just order whatever you like. Don't be too restrained. She immediately rebuked, do I need you to tell me that? Shishir and I have been in a relationship for so many years. Yun Shishir tugged at the corner of her lips, feeling extremely awkward inside. She felt that Gao Nan had been particularly enthusiastic and concerned about her ever since he appeared. Isn't he afraid that Xiao Shui will be jealous when he treats me so gently? Girls don't like it when their partners are too attentive and gentle to other girls. Xiao Shui had not seen her for more than a month, so she had a lot to say to her, such as how hard it was to adapt to the company environment, how she met and fell in love with her boyfriend, and so on. In short, she had a lot to say to Yun Shishir. However, before she could say much, Gao Nan suddenly interjected, I heard from Xiao Shui that you're filming in the production team now. His sudden interruption stunned Xiao Shui, but she did not think much of it and just went along with his words. Yes, Shishir is filming in the production team of The Green Apple as the female lead. Moreover, the male lead is played by Gu Xingze. Shishir will definitely shoot to fame when this movie is released. Yun Shishir smiled shyly. Xiao Shui, what do you mean by instant fame? You're exaggerating a little too much. That's right. Shusher was already famous. She was featured in all the behind-the-scenes videos posted by the crew of The Green Apple. It's obvious that the crew is also trying to support Shusher. Xiao Shui was stunned for a moment before she asked curiously, "Huh? You're on Weibo too? Didn't you tell me that you don't use Weibo?" Gao Nan replied, "I just opened my Weibo account." "Oh, why didn't you tell me that you opened an account? Let's pay attention to each other." Xiao Shui said, "Speaking of which, Shusher, I didn't expect you to have a Weibo account as well. You even followed me first. I'm so excited." "What's there to be excited about? He's a superstar." "You're a superstar now. Now that I've caught the attention of a superstar, my friends are so envious of me." Xiao Shui suddenly had an idea and said, "Shusher, if only I could catch the attention of Gu Xingze. Even if it's just for a day, I'll be so happy." "You're Gu Xingze's fan?" Yun Shusher was a little surprised. Yes. I have a collection of his posters at home. I've been following him since his debut. I've been his fan for 10 years, and I have all his albums. I can watch every single one of his movies dozens of times." Xiao Shui immediately turned into a fangirl at the mention of Gu Xingze. Yun Shusher did not expect Xiao Shui to be Gu Xingze's die-hard fan and was a little surprised. Chapter 873. Her words brought the topic back to her once more. Yun Shusher was stunned for a moment before she gave a perfunctory reply. "It's all right. Filming is work, and all work is hard. Yeah. I used to think that those who say work is tiring are just making groundless moans. But when I joined the company, I realized that working is really tiring." She complained bitterly. Yun Shusher knew her best friend well. She grew up in a good family and was a typical rich missy. Back then, when she was still in college, she had her first BMW, which attracted the envy of many. Hence, the little princess, who was used to living at home, found it hard to adapt to work. When she was still in school, she went to a cafe to work part-time with her on a whim, but she gave up after a few days. Indeed, she could not bear hardships. Hence, she was quite surprised that she could persevere for a month without quitting. "Why don't you work in the family company?" "Well, because my dad told me to go to a foreign company to hone my skills before returning to the family company," she replied. Still, he's also surprised that I can persevere. "I didn't expect you to persevere either. Do you know why?" She winked at her mysteriously and suddenly smiled shyly. It turned out that not long after she joined the company, she was transferred to the administrative department as a secretary. The head of the administrative department was Gao Nan, who was sitting next to her. Speaking of Gao Nan, Xiao Shui, who was in love, was like a little girl who had just fallen in love. She began to talk about her relationship history. Gao Nan was the head of the administrative department and the son of a shareholder of this foreign company. He came from a good family and was considered a good match for the Xiao family. He was handsome and elegant, so he was the Prince Charming in the hearts of many girls in the company. Naturally, he captured Xiao Shui's heart. The only reason she could persevere was that her admiration for him had turned into motivation. She was a girl who dared to love and hate. She never liked to bury her feelings for the people and things she liked in her heart. Half a month after joining the administrative department, she mustered the courage to confess to Gao Nan. To her surprise, he agreed. The two of them quickly confirmed their relationship. Xiao Shui even planned to bring Gao Nan home to meet her parents in the second half of the year. Now that she was in the honeymoon period and had tasted the sweetness of love, Yun Shusher could not help but frown at the mention of meeting her parents. Isn't this progressed too fast? Shusher, after having Gao Nan, I really feel that I'm the happiest woman in the world. Xiao Shui smiled contentedly, her face brimming with undisguised happiness. Yun Shusher smiled, too, but she suddenly realized that Gao Nan's gaze was still fixed on her even as Xiao Shui said this. He couldn't help but feel a little uncomfortable. Xiao Shui suddenly remembered something and said, "By the way, do you still remember Huang Lily?" Huang Lily. She muttered the name under her breath. Of course, she remembered it. Huang Lily was the campus belle and the dream lover of many boys. However, she did not have a good impression of her. She didn't know why, but Huang Lily was always at odds with her. She always put on airs in front of her, which made her feel uncomfortable. What happened to her? Chapter 874. As she spoke, she took out an invitation from her bag and handed it over. Yun Shishir's eyes lit up as she took it from her. It was an invitation to a class reunion. Yesterday, she informed her classmates in the WeChat group that there's going to be a class reunion. Apparently, it's at Yongya Private Clubhouse. She couldn't reach you, so she asked me to contact you. Yun Shishir replied, Yongya Private Clubhouse. I heard that it's very expensive. In her impression, Huang Lily came from an ordinary family. Why would she choose to hold a banquet at a private clubhouse? Xiao Shui smiled contemptuously. Her family is so poor, and she hasn't had a job since graduation. She even posts travel photos on her WeChat moments. How can she afford such an expensive place? She's so vain. I bet she's hooked up with a rich man, so she can't wait to show off to us. Yun Shishir rested her chin on her hand. Actually, I don't really want to go. I don't want to go either. If I go, I might have to see some pretentious people showing off their boyfriends, bags, diamond necklaces. It's so boring. Yun Shishir, however, remained silent. Xiao Shui continued, however, this time, our class monitor said that he's going to emigrate soon. This is his last class reunion before he leaves the country, so he hopes that the whole class can be present. Since he said so, I can't refuse. He's going to emigrate. Yun Shishir had some impression of this class monitor. His name was Meng Qinghe, and he took good care of her. When is the class reunion? It's tomorrow. Yun Shishir was stunned. Shishir, are you willing to go? Xiao Shui asked tentatively. Yun Shishir was silent for a while. I don't want to go. Go. Gao Nan suddenly said, I'll go with Xiao Shui tomorrow. Shishir, you come along, too. Xiao Shui did not notice the enthusiasm and anticipation in his words as she continued to play along. Shishir, let's go, let's go. You're not the same as before, who would dare to laugh at you? Besides, I'm here, so don't be afraid. Whoever dares to bully you, I won't let them off. Gao Nan followed suit. Shishir, let's go together. Isn't this guy a little too enthusiastic? Yun Shishir felt extremely awkward. She felt that Gao Nan was paying too much attention to her. With that thought, she felt a little uncomfortable, so she slowly stood up and said, I'll go to the bathroom first. Yes. All right. Xiao Shui nodded with a smile and lowered her head to take a sip of coffee. She walked to the washroom and washed her hands clean of the sweet and greasy stains. When I was drinking mocha just now, I accidentally spilled some on my hand. When she came out after washing her hands, she was shocked by the man who appeared at the door like a ghost. She saw Gao Nan standing at the door with his back against the wall. She didn't know how long he had been standing there. Dressed in a shirt and black pants, he looked like a handsome and elegant business elite. However, when she calmed down and met his deep eyes, she couldn't help but be startled. She retreated slightly to keep a distance from him. Why are you here? Yun Shishir forced a smile. Gao Nan, on the other hand, did not say a word as he quietly sized her up. Yun Shishir. What a nice name. What's more, as her name suggests, she's very good looking. His sudden remark was baffling to the others. Chapter 875. He was clearly here to accompany his girlfriend, yet he kept bringing her into the conversation, which made her feel rather displeased. During the banquet, he kept trying to strike up a conversation with her, but in fact, Yun Shishir was unwilling to have too much to do with him. After all, he was her boyfriend. Moreover, given her character, she had never liked to get too close to strangers of the opposite sex. Perhaps it was because of what happened in college that she always kept a distance from the opposite sex and tried her best to avoid being gossiped about. Noticing the faint displeasure on her face, Gao Nan merely smiled. It was not that he did not notice that she was avoiding him. Is she pretending to be virtuous? Thinking about it, it was nothing much. After all, she was a woman from the entertainment industry. With Yun Shishir's looks, she could definitely make a name for herself in the industry. As such, as a big star, it was understandable for her to put on airs to not appear too cheap. Initially, Xiao Shui said that she was meeting a friend and wanted him to accompany her, but Gao Nan refused at first. That was because he felt that it was meaningless. However, when she said that this friend was her best friend, she wanted to formally introduce him to her. Gao Nan, do you know Yun Shishir? She's my best friend. You're my boyfriend, so I want to formally introduce you to her. When she said that, Gao Nan asked if she was Yun Shishir, the newcomer who had been in the limelight recently. She said that she was. That was why he was willing to accompany her here. It was all because he wanted to see how the legendary and otherworldly Yun Shishir looked like in real life. However, when he followed Xiao Shui into the cafe, he caught sight of Yun Shishir nestled on the sofa, dozing off. The moment he saw her face, it was not an exaggeration to say that he was taken aback. Stunning. He did not expect Yun Shishir to be prettier in real life than in the photos exposed on Weibo. For a moment, he could not help but be tempted. Gao Nan smiled, but this smile was different from the polite one he showed to Xiao Shui earlier. Yun Shishir saw the strange smile on his face and felt her scalp go numb for a moment. She forced a smile and said, "I'll go back to my seat first. Xiao Shui is still waiting for me." Just as she was about to leave, her arm was grabbed by Gao Nan. The man grabbed her arm and pulled her toward him. Startled, she lifted her head to look at the man's smile, only to find it a little strange and unfathomable. He was about 1.8 meters tall, so when she stood in front of him, she was just below his shoulders. He pulled her back, but Yun Shishir didn't like his touch. She frowned. "You, with your looks, your net worth must be very high, right?" Gao Nan's sudden question came out of nowhere. Yun Shishir was taken aback by his words and did not understand what he meant for a moment. Gao Nan continued. "I heard that any woman who can make a name for herself in showbiz has a sugar daddy behind her. You've just debuted, yet you're already famous. You should have a sugar daddy behind you, right?" The moment he said that, Yun Shishir immediately understood what he meant. Her face turned sullen and angry. Are you angry from embarrassment? Chapter 876. What do you know? Yun Shishir could tell what kind of person he was. She shook off his grip and turned to leave. However, the man had already seen her as his prey. Since he had his eyes on her, how could he let her escape? Hence, he wrapped his arm around her waist. Yun Shishir's expression changed as she felt the hand around her waist tighten. She was then pulled back and pinned against the wall. His tall body blocked her escape route, trapping her between him and the wall. You're asking me what I know. What I know is that for a woman like you, everything has a clear price tag. For example, what's the price for a meal? What's the price for sleeping with you for a night? Since you're such a woman, we're both well aware of such things. You don't have to pretend to be so virtuous in front of me. I've seen it too many times, and it's inevitably disgusting. His mother was Xinguang Entertainment's director and shareholder. Since he was young, he often attended dinners with his mother. Some female celebrities pretended to be dignified and elegant on TV, as if they were so beautiful that not a speck of dust could stain them. What about in private, though? Didn't they obediently attend dinners with just a phone call? Be it dinners or sleeping partners, they all had clear prices, ranging from hundreds of thousands to millions to tens of millions. As long as one had money, was there any celebrity in the entertainment industry who could not sleep with him? He had seen plenty of such things. When he looked back at those female celebrities who pretended to be virtuous in front of their fans, he could not help but feel disgusted by the fact that they had to set up a monument for themselves. I don't know what you're talking about. Yun Shishir's face turned red as she glared at him in embarrassment and anger. Gao Nan, I'm giving you face on account that you're Xiao Shui's boyfriend. Don't bite people like a mad dog. A look of annoyance surfaced on his face, but it was soon replaced by an amused smile. You're saying that I'm a mad dog? Interesting. This little mouth of yours is really quite fierce, huh? Or are you just playing hard to get? Are you using this method to attract potential investors? This man was truly shameless. On the surface, he looked like a decent human, but he was actually a beast dressed in human clothing. Deep down, he was such a frivolous person. Gao Nan lowered his head and leaned close to her neck. He took a deep breath of the fragrance from her hair and grinned frivolously. You smell so good. I wonder how it tastes when you're in bed. Gao Nan, I'm warning you, let go of me. Yun Shishir found his face to be extremely disgusting and resisted with all her might. However, Gao Nan's body was strong, and he had been exercising all this while. Her resistance was nothing to him. Yun Shishir, let's lay things out on the table and talk things out. How much do you get for one night? The price is clearly stated. I don't want to play games with you. It's boring. Get lost. Yun Shishir warned in disgust. How much? The man acted as if he did not hear her and ignored the disgust in her eyes. 500,000. 1 million. With your looks, it's understandable even if you ask for 10 million. His arrogant words did not hide his humiliation toward her at all. Chapter 877. How could this man be so overboard? Recalling the shy and lovable look on her friend's face when she snuggled up to him, Yun Shishir's heart ached for her friend all of a sudden. She was so angry that she was rendered speechless, and her face was full of anger. However, the more angry she was, the more Gao Nan was distracted. Right from the start, most of the women around him could not wait to get close to him. However, even if she was playing hard to get, she was still playing tricks with him. Still, he had to admit that he had developed a strong interest in her. Lowering his head, Gao Nan unscrupulously admired the angry look on her face. She was glaring at him with a pair of eyes that were filled with forbearance and stubbornness. Her beautiful eyes were as ethereal and beautiful as the distant mountains. Coupled with her pure and refined face, it was so tender that it looked as if it could be broken with a snap of his fingers. Her angry face seemed to have been smeared with pink rouge, making her look charming and alluring. As if possessed, he lowered his head with a greedy look in his eyes. He wanted to kiss her seductive little mouth, but Yun Shishir quickly dodged and then raised her hand to give him a hard slap. Smack! He gave her a hard slap. She angrily pushed him away. She felt that she was degrading herself by being looked at by this man for an extra second. I've never seen such a shameless man like you. Yun Shishir angrily gritted her teeth. If she didn't control herself, her whole body would probably tremble in anger. I didn't expect you to hide such a disgusting face despite your dignified appearance. Gao Nan subconsciously touched his cheek, which was burning hot. This woman's slap wasn't light at all. However, instead of getting angry, he laughed. Touching the corner of his lip, which had been cut by his teeth, he licked it and tasted a hint of blood. Pooh! He laughed. What's wrong? Are you angry? Gao Nan looked at her with contempt in his eyes, as if her slap was not serious at all. It was probably one of her tricks to loosen the reins in order to get closer to him. What's there to be angry about with a man like you? He just felt that it was really disgusting. When Yun Shishir thought of Xiao Shui, she suddenly felt indignant for Xiao Shui. Such a man was clearly a wastrel and was not worthy of Xiao Shui. I'm warning you, please behave yourself. You're betraying Xiao Shui, do you understand? Her. I'm just playing with it. Once I'm tired of it, I'll just throw it away. His face was frighteningly cold. Xiao Shui's my friend, and I won't allow you to treat her like this. Yun Shishir was furious. The man snorted. What right do you have to say this to me? This is between me and her. It's not up to you to interfere. When he said that, Yun Shishir fell silent. She had nothing to say. It was as if she didn't have the right to ask about this matter. However, she just couldn't stand it anymore. She clenched her fists and asked, Are you like this in front of Xiao Shui? Gao Nan raised a brow, obviously not understanding the meaning of her words. Yun Shishir continued, Or do you pretend to be a dignified gentleman in front of her, but behind her back, you put on such a disgusting face? Her. Chapter 878. As if he had just heard the funniest joke in the world, he coldly said, She can pretend in front of me, but I can't do the same in front of her. What do you mean? Isn't that the case? He sneered. Yun Shishir, stop acting all high and mighty in front of me to accuse me. What right do you have to be so arrogant? Why are you still acting all high and mighty in front of me? Yun Shishir was dumbfounded. Gao Nan continued. Xiao Shui is quite an interesting woman. We've been in a relationship for so long, but she only lets me hold hands and kiss. She won't let me touch anything else. I say, we're already adults, so why is she still acting like this? Just who is she pretending to be pure and innocent like a white lotus for? What era is it now? Why is she still so conservative and chaste? Does she really think of herself as Du Shenyang? Is she so precious that I can't even touch her? Is she made of gold? Yun Shishir was stunned for a moment. When she realized what kind of vicious words the man had used to criticize her friend, she trembled in anger. Yun Shishir, you know what kind of society we are in now, right? Aside from kissing and holding hands, how can we still be considered a couple? Or has she never treated me as a boyfriend? If it weren't for her family's wealth, I would have dumped her long ago. After a pause, he continued. To tell you the truth, if it weren't for the fact that we're well matched in terms of social status, I wouldn't have agreed to date her. Other than her family's background and her looks, what else is attractive about her? Shameless. Yun Shishir was so angry that she could not speak. Shameless. He took a step closer to her and looked down at her condescendingly. His tone was both sarcastic and mocking. To me, a woman only has two functions. The first type was a woman of equal social status. If he married her, he would be able to expand his family's territory. The other is to satisfy a woman like you, who is just a tool to satisfy her biological needs. Yun Shishir's bottom line was immediately crossed. She raised her hand, but Gao Nan held it firmly. He grabbed her chin and sneered. Yun Shishir, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. I'm buying you because I think highly of you. You must know that not just any woman can climb into my bed, I have to like her first. I like a woman who knows how to appreciate favors. Yun Shishir's face turned ghastly pale. She was so angry that she laughed and enunciated each word clearly. Gao Nan, you're not even worthy of my attention. What? Honestly, a man like you is no different from a worm in a stinky ditch. She paused for a moment before her words escaped from her red lips. It's dirty, disgusting, and disgusting. With that, she broke free from his grip and walked away, ignoring the man's livid face. Gao Nan was so angry that he stood rooted to the ground, unable to come back to his senses for a long time. When she returned to her seat, Xiao Shui was looking at the street outside the window. Seeing her return, she turned her head and smiled. Just as she was about to speak, she saw the latter's gloomy face. She lowered her head and kept quiet after returning to her seat, which made her feel a little strange. "Shusher, what's wrong with you?" Yun Shusher raised her head and looked at her with a complicated expression. She opened her mouth but couldn't utter a single syllable. In fact, she really wanted to repeat what the man had just said to her word for word. Chapter 879. Girls who were in the honeymoon phase of their relationship were almost blind and unhesitant about love. She could tell that Xiao Shui cared a lot about Gao Nan. Having been friends with her for so long, her impression of the latter had always been that she was a resolute and decisive woman. She was very picky when it came to men. However, this was understandable. After all, she came from a superior family, and she would not take a fancy to ordinary men. During her few years in college, there were many boys who chased after her, but she said that relationships in college would always end in failure, so she did not want to waste time. As for Gao Nan, she could tell that she had feelings for him. After all, this was the first time she saw the shyness and dependence of a young woman on her face. This was especially true when she was leaning against Gao Nan with adoration in her eyes. She must love Gao Nan a lot, right? Even if she believed her words, how big of a blow would she suffer if she knew Gao Nan's true colors? Moreover, as Gao Nan said, this was their relationship, and she was in no position to interfere, right? Still, she could only sit back and watch her best friend be played by a scumbag. She really could not bear it. Yun Shusher looked like she wanted to say something but stopped herself. Seeing this, Xiao Shui asked, "What's wrong? Why do you look so pale? Are you feeling unwell?" "No." She shook her head. Xiao Shui, who was known for being impatient, became even more anxious. "Did someone bully you, then? Tell me, who dares to bully our Shusher?" Yun Shusher looked at her and finally made up her mind. Just as she was about to speak, she saw Gao Nan walking toward their seats. Her words got stuck in her throat. Gao Nan returned to his seat, but there was no change in his expression. He sat down and naturally reached out to hug Xiao Shui's shoulders. The expression on his face was completely different from the frivolous one he had in front of her earlier. "You must have waited for a long time. Why did you take so long to answer a call?" She could not help grumbling. "It was a call from the company. There's something I need to talk to you about," Gao Nan said concisely before he shot Yun Shusher a meaningful look. The latter felt as if he was sitting on pins and needles, and his expression was even more unsightly. After chatting with Gao Nan for a while, Xiao Shui turned to Yun Shusher and asked, "Shusher, you don't look well. What's wrong?" Yun Shusher glanced at Gao Nan and pretended to be calm. "Maybe I've been exposed to the air conditioner for too long. It's a little cold and uncomfortable." "Then why didn't you say so earlier?" "I feel cold too." With that said, Xiao Shui called the waiter and told him to turn up the temperature of the air conditioner. After that, Xiao Shui eloquently told her the interesting anecdotes in the company. Yun Shusher couldn't help but lose interest after what happened just now. Toward the end, Xiao Shui was about to leave with Gao Nan's arm when Yun Shusher suddenly said, "Xiao Shui, can you send me home? Now, I'm afraid I can't get a taxi." As she said this, she planned to have a good chat with Xiao Shui in private. Xiao Shui had always been her best friend, and she didn't want to see her go astray. "I didn't drive today. Why don't I get Gao Nan to drive you?" "That's not very good." "Shusher, why are you being so polite with me? Then, why don't I get my assistant to pick me up?" It just so happens that I've moved to a new place. You can come over to my place. Yun Shishir immediately said. Shishir, you've moved. Chapter 880. Yun Shishir suddenly said, is it okay if it's just the two of us? I have some private matters to discuss with you. With that, she turned to him. You won't mind, right? How could that be? Gao Nan smiled, but it was a fake one. He looked deeply at her before lowering his head to kiss her cheek. Give me a call when you're home. With that, he left. Yun Shishir called Mu Shi, who happened to be free, and replied that she would be there in 15 minutes. Now, there were only the two of them left. Yun Shishir suddenly asked, Xiao Shui, how long have you been dating Gao Nan? It's been more than half a month. Xiao Shui said. Suddenly, a smile appeared on her face. Time really flies. I feel like I'm dreaming. Shishir, do you know? When I confessed to him, I didn't expect him to agree to be with me. Still, the truth is that we've been dating for more than half a month. It's unbelievable. Do you like him that much? Of course. You know that I'm quite picky when it comes to boyfriends. Gao Nan fulfills all my fantasies of a boyfriend. Xiao Shui talked about how she felt that she had fallen in love with Gao Nan at first sight when she first entered the company, and that she already had feelings for him at first sight. He's tall, handsome, talented, and capable. I never believed in love at first sight, but it turns out that there's such a thing in this world. Then, Yun Shishir suddenly probed. Do you know him well? Xiao Shui was stunned, a look of disappointment appearing on her face. If I knew him well, I wouldn't be so insecure. Do you know? Gao Nan is so outstanding that many girls in the company like him. He's really annoying. I have to face so many love rivals every day at work, and this is also the reason why I've persisted in the company for so long. She sounded a little desolate. Sometimes, I admire his excellence, but most of the time, I wish that he wasn't so outstanding. Do you know? I accidentally saw a message from him last time. A girl actually confessed to him despite knowing that he has a girlfriend. Shishir, I'm really uneasy. I'm afraid of losing him. Isn't your relationship quite stable? Yun Shishir did not know whether to laugh or cry. You've already planned to meet his parents, isn't it too soon? That's because I really like him. Xiao Shui felt aggrieved. Shishir, I have something to ask you. Emichim, do you think that two people who love each other give everything to each other without holding anything back? I mean, in that aspect. Xiao Shui, her face blushing. He said that he wants me. Yun Shishir was stunned for a moment before quickly understanding the meaning behind her words. Xiao Shui, I remember you said before that you were against premarital sex. When they were in university, Xiao Shui vowed that she would save her virginity for her wedding night. Yes. But Gao Nan said. What era are we in now? We don't value those things as much. Xiao Shui looked distressed. Chapter 881. Mu Shi arrived soon after. The car drove them back to Xiangdi Walk. When Xiao Shui saw the garden bungalow, her face was full of surprise. Wow! It's a garden bungalow. Gosh, there are only 2 garden bungalows in Xiangdi Walk. Shishir, is this your new home? Yes, it is. She was in disbelief. I heard that this garden bungalow isn't for sale. What? Xiao Shui said, when my brother got married, he took a fancy to this garden bungalow and planned to buy it for his wedding home. It's not expensive, but I heard that this is a project reserved by the real estate company and not for sale to the public. This garden bungalow occupies almost all of the prime real estate in Xiangdi Walk. Shishir, how much did you buy for this house? About tens of millions. Yun Shishir was a little confused. To be honest, this house was given to her by Mu Yaja, and her name was registered on the property deed. The entire Xiangdi Walk was under the Mu Group's name, so it was only a matter of time before Mu Yaja gave her this house. My brother offered 100 million yuan, but he didn't get it. Xiao Shue's face was filled with envy and regret. Yun Shishir could not help but be a little absent-minded. Thus, she brought her to visit the bungalow. Xiao Shui especially liked the back garden. Girls liked romance, so the back garden was full of Chinese roses. Shishir, you still like Chinese roses that much? Yes. That's because my mother loved Chinese roses the most when she was alive, Shishir answered. I like roses. If I have such a back garden, I'll definitely plant them all. It'll be beautiful. Xiao Shui twirled in the flowers with a bright smile. Yu Yu returned home after shopping for groceries and heard the sound of frolicking in the garden. He walked in and saw Yun Shishir and Xiao Shui swinging gently on the swing. Mommy! Auntie Xiao Shui! Yu Yu called out obediently. As soon as Xiao Shui saw him, she was immediately struck by his adorable look. She rushed over and pulled him into her arms. Yu Yu, Auntie misses you so much. Do you miss Auntie? I don't want to. I've almost forgotten who you are. Despite her thoughts, Yu Yu still had an innocent smile on her face. Yes. Ow ow. So cute, so cute. My heart is about to melt because of you. Xiao Shui refused to let go of him. I want to have a cute little boy like Yu Yu with Gao Nan in the future. Yun Shishir could not help but laugh. Yu Yu slipped out of her arms and smiled elegantly. Auntie, take your time. I'm going to make dinner. Yu Yu can cook. Xiao Shui was dumbfounded. She couldn't believe it. However, when it came to dinner, when she sat in front of the table and looked at the sumptuous dishes on the table, her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Yu Yu was obedient and cute, and he even did the housework. She thought of her cousin. He was the same age as Yu Yu, but he didn't know anything other than eating, drinking, and having fun. There was no comparison. Comparisons were odious. Xiao Shui was envious and jealous. She kept praising Yun Shishir for being lucky. Yun Shishir was tickled by her envious, jealous, and hateful expression. Don't worry. You can have one in the future. Shishir, why don't you let Yu Yu acknowledge me as his godmother? Xiao Shui bit her handkerchief with tears in her eyes. Chapter 882. She purposely teased him. Yu Yu, why don't you want me to be your aunt? No. Yu Yu smiled obediently. I only have one daddy and one mommy. Xiao Shui was amused by his serious look. All right. I won't tease you anymore. After dinner, Xiao Shui left. Yun Shishir thought of something and gave her manager a call. Qin Zhou, are you busy? Yes. His voice sounded muffled as if he had just woken up. Tell me, what's the matter? It's like this. Yun Shishir pondered for a moment. Do you know anything about Qingguang Entertainment? Qingguang Entertainment. The manager was silent for a moment before humming in response. What's wrong with Qingguang Entertainment? Yun Shishir remembered that Xiao Shui had mentioned that Gao Nan's mother was the director of Qingguang Entertainment called Gao Shi something. Gao Cici. Qin Zhou gave a brief introduction. It turned out that Qingguang Entertainment was the second biggest star-making dream factory in China after Huanyu Entertainment. The director of Qingguang Entertainment, Gao Cici, had an extraordinary background. She held a high position in the entertainment industry and had a wide network. The reason why Gao Cici's background was extraordinary was because Gao Cici's father was a powerful figure. The Gao family was unlike the Song family. The Song family was a century-old scholarly family, and Old Master Song was one of the founding fathers of the country. Gao Cici's father, on the other hand, was a big shot in the Gao family. It was said that he was an important figure on par with Old Master Song and was one of the 8 founding generals of the country. Therefore, Gao Cici was a typical second-generation heir. Gao Nan's father, Li Muzhang, was a live-in son-in-law. The reason why he had the status he had today was mainly because of the Gao family's power. Therefore, he was very afraid of Gao Cici, and even his son, Gao Nan, took the latter's surname. This was because he had no status in the Gao family. Everything he had now was nothing without the Gao family. Gao Cici doted on her son very much, which resulted in the latter's willful character. Gao Nan was a well-known playboy in the industry. He had slept with almost all the female artistes under Qingguang Entertainment. Qin Zhou replied, Gao Nan has a bad reputation in the circle. Those female stars in Qingguang Entertainment were all chosen by him. Gao Cici dotes on this son of his and indulges him almost without limit. Yun Shishir did not expect Xiao Shue's boyfriend to be such a man. If I talk about his romantic past, it will definitely topple your worldview. Gao Nan's character was unpredictable, and he was short-lived when it came to women. One day, he would speak sweet nothings to you, but the next day, he would toss you far away in the blink of an eye when he had a new lover. In this circle, there was no woman he couldn't get his hands on. If the woman resisted him in the slightest, he would resort to underhanded means to force her. Do you know Lin Yun? Well, wasn't it very popular a while ago? She was kept by Gao Nan for a year, and he promised her that he would use all his resources to support her. Therefore, all the A-list female stars under Qingguang Entertainment are related to Gao Nan in some way. As for what kind of relationship they have, I don't think I need to spell it out. Yun Shishir felt disgusted. It turned out that he was not only a scumbag but also a stud horse. Chapter 883. Qin Zhou deliberately tried to scare her. After a pause, he asked in confusion, Why did you suddenly mention this person? It's nothing, I'm just asking. Gao Nan will use all means at the banquet if he fancies a woman. Sure, you're in the entertainment industry, and the waters are deep. You must know how to protect yourself. Qin Zhou advised her once more. Yun Shishir thanked him. After hanging up the phone, Yun Shishir leaned on the sofa in a daze and fell into deep thought. According to Qin Zhou, Gao Nan had a bad reputation in the industry. If he had so many women around him, why would he still want to be with Xiao Shui? To me, women only serve 2 purposes. One is a woman of equal social status. Marriage with her can expand the family's territory. The other is a woman like you, a tool to satisfy his physiological needs. Yun Shishir suddenly recalled his words. Could Xiao Shui be the first type? Did he only choose her for the sake of his family's alliance through marriage? Unable to sit idly by, Yun Shishir decided to have a good talk with her friend. At the very least, she must let her see the man's true colors. Yun Shishir initially did not want to attend the class reunion the next day. After all, the class reunion was meaningless to her. So what if the class monitor wanted to go abroad? If he wanted to have a successful class reunion before he went abroad, was she obligated to fulfill his wish? She recalled the rumors and slanders that slandered her in college, as well as her classmates' indifference and suspicion toward her. She had no feelings for her college classmates and could not even remember their names. However, at the thought of Xiao Shui and Gao Nan attending, she decided to attend the banquet despite her worries. The time was set at 7 p.m., dinner time. While Yun Shishir was choosing a dress in the wardrobe, Mu Yaja suddenly arrived. When she opened the door and saw Mu Yaja leaning lazily against the door frame, she was slightly surprised and puzzled. Why are you here? Can't I come? Mu Yaja strode in with his long legs. Seeing that she had put on makeup for the first time, he was extremely sensitive and sized her up. Are you going out? Yes. Where to? Date, Yun Shishir said subconsciously. Mu Yaja's expression immediately changed. Yun Shishir immediately corrected herself, it's a class reunion. Class reunion. Mu Yaja was obviously suspicious. According to your character, you wouldn't attend such a boring gathering. Yun Shishir was embarrassed. Did this man know her personality so well? Because, I'll go with you, Mu Yaja said, not allowing her to refuse. Yun Shishir's lips twitched. Where are you going? To accompany you. Mu Yaja's words were concise and comprehensive. In fact, he didn't want anything to take up her time. It was rare for him to be free, but in the end, she wanted to go to some so-called class reunion. If he had to go, then he would go. But such an occasion will be very boring. Aren't you afraid of being bored? Mu Yaja curled his lips and reached out to lift a strand of hair that had fallen over her shoulder, sniffing it. With you around, I won't feel bored anywhere. Okay. It didn't matter if he went. Since Gao Nan was going with Xiao Shui, it didn't matter if she followed. But if you go, there's only one condition. What condition? Keep a low profile. Oh. Mu Yaja raised his handsome brows. How so? Yun Shishir fell silent. Chapter 884. She was only going because of Xiao Shui and did not want to pay attention to other unimportant people. Okay, I'll listen to you, Mu Yaja said. Yun Shishir was satisfied. She was actually quite perturbed. After all, she did not have a good impression of those classmates. She only hoped that she could pretend to be invisible when she went there. It would be best if she was ignored and left after having a meal. Her main purpose was to keep an eye on Gao Nan. It would be best if she could find an opportunity to let Xiao Shui see the man's true colors. Yun Shishir returned to her room to choose a dress. However, the clothes in her wardrobe were all selected by Qin Zhou, which were too eye-catching. In order to keep a low profile, she specially chose a snow-white dress and a denim vest. After changing, she walked out of the bedroom and walked up to Mu Yaja. She tugged at the hem of her dress unnaturally. Look, is this dress okay? It's so plain. Mu Yaja frowned, obviously dissatisfied. It's too plain. It doesn't look good. It's not a fashion banquet. It's just an ordinary class reunion. There's no need to be so picky about what to wear. Simple is fine. Yun Shishir thought so. Mu Yaja disagreed. That's true, but the clothes look good, generous, and decent. Yours is too tender. At first glance, she looked like a young high school student, which did not suit her temperament at all. But the clothes in my wardrobe are too revealing. Qin Zhou picked them for me to wear to the banquet. It's not good to wear them at a class reunion. Mu Yaja did not believe her and personally picked one for her. However, just like what Yun Shishir had said, the clothes in the wardrobe were all either backless or cleavage. They were all fashionable gowns for dinner parties, so they were indeed not suitable for her. Therefore, he personally took her to the shopping mall and went to the counter to pick out a socialite strapless organza dress for her. The dress was very slim-fitting and showed off her figure. The burgundy color of the dress made her snow-white skin look even more beautiful. She had a slim figure and was low-key, but it didn't lose its luxuriousness. She looked very decent. She wouldn't stand out too much at a class reunion, but she wouldn't lose her luster when standing among a group of well-dressed women. Yun Shishir also felt that this dress was suitable. It was almost 6:00. There was a traffic jam on the road at this time. It was time to set off. Thus, she suggested, "Shall we take a taxi?" "Why did you take a taxi?" Mu Yaja was puzzled. He drove today, so why did he take a taxi? But, you drive a sports car. Wouldn't that be too high profile? The man could not help but laugh. Why are you being so careful? Because, Yun Shishir lowered her eyes and a complicated look flashed across her eyes. However, she didn't intend to hide it and only said, when I was in university, someone slandered me and said that I was a canary kept by a rich man. So, I want to keep a low profile and avoid those gossips. I don't want to be misunderstood. Even if she said that she didn't care about what others thought, did she really not care? When she thought of the belittling and slandering she suffered in university, she still felt a lingering fear. Those rumors and slanders really bothered her and hurt her. When Muyaja heard that, he was stunned but reached out and stroked her hair to comfort her. It's different now. Chapter 885. I'm here. Muyaja's simple words gave her a great sense of relief. Before they left, Jiangli called. Shishir, are you coming today? Yun Shishir smiled. Yeah, I'm about to leave. Wow. That's great. Shishir, the whole class will go crazy if you come. Then, she suddenly felt a little embarrassed. When are you leaving? Right away. Is it convenient for you to pick me up? Yun Shishir said a little embarrassedly, there are only 2 seats in the car. I can't fit all of you. Muyaja's car was a convertible sports car with only 2 seats. It's okay, I'll take a taxi, Jiangli said. Oh, is your husband sending you there on a bike? Husband, on a bike. Yun Shishir was embarrassed. When she heard that the car only had 2 seats, Jiangli thought that her car was an electric scooter. See you later, Shishir. Then, Jiangli hung up the phone. Muyaja drove to Yongya private clubhouse and threw the keys to the security guard at the entrance. He asked him to park the car and gave him a tip along the way. Yongya private clubhouse was said to be a place for the rich to pass time. Just a membership card was enough for ordinary people to work hard for half their lives. When she walked into the private clubhouse, she saw the stylish decor and elegant lighting. Yun Shishir saw Jiangli standing in front of the mural and looking at it. She called out, Jiangli. Jiangli turned around. When she saw her, she was about to greet her excitedly. However, when Muyaja stepped through the door, she was stunned. Oh my God, what a handsome man. He was like a statue of the gods, a perfect work of art. The man stood beside Yun Shishir. He had a golden ratio figure and his legs were straight and slender. He was wearing a simple white shirt and black trousers. However, even with such a simple outfit, Jiangli felt that this man's aura was terrifying. He should be a high and mighty figure. The man had fair skin, well-defined facial features, and deep, dark eyes. They were suffused with a charming luster, but they were cold and unapproachable. He had a handsome nose and extremely sexy thin lips. This was a breathtakingly handsome man. From the moment he stepped through the door, the large foyer seemed to become even more resplendent. The man had been silent the whole time. He exuded the aura of an emperor from head to toe. He was elegant and calm. At a glance, one could tell that he was either rich or noble. Jiangli could not help but find it difficult to breathe. At first, she wondered who this man was and why he suddenly appeared here. However, when she saw the man standing beside Yun Shishir and reaching out to hook his arm around her shoulder, she couldn't help but be stunned. Her face was full of excitement. Shishir, he's your husband. Jiangli looked back and forth between the man and her in a daze. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. He had to admit that this handsome man and Yun Shishir looked very compatible when they stood next to each other. Yun Shishir was about to speak, but Muyaja beat her to it. Hello. His voice was not deliberately cold, but his tone was indifferent and did not have any warmth. However, he did not deny Jiangli's suspicions. Therefore, Jiangli tacitly agreed that he was Yun Shishir's husband. Chapter 886. It was not that she was not envious. Not only was this man handsome, but he also had the grace and elegance of a noble. Thinking about her husband, Jiangli felt lucky that she did not bring her husband along today. Otherwise, she would feel embarrassed when compared to Yun Shishir's man. Everyone had a sense of vanity, and so did Jiangli. Seeing that Yun Shishir could find such an outstanding and handsome man, Jiangli was naturally envious. Yun Shishir asked, "Jiangli, are you the only one here?" "No, I just arrived too. Lily has already sent the private room number to the WeChat group. Let's go in." "Okay." The waiter immediately came over to lead the way. Jiangli had never been to such a place and felt very reserved. Hence, she quietly tugged at Yun Shishir's sleeve and whispered, "Shishir, this is my first time coming to such a place. This place looks so classy. Is it very expensive?" Yun Shishir also smiled. "It's my first time here too. I don't know why Huang Lily chose such a place. It makes me feel quite reserved and uncomfortable," Jiangli said sincerely. The waiter walked in front. When he heard Jiang Li's words, a look of disdain appeared on his face. One look at the way this person spoke and one could tell that he was a commoner. This was a private clubhouse with a membership system. One could not spend money here just because they had money. The prerequisite was that one had to have status to be able to enter and become a member here. The waiter brought them to the private room and pushed the door open. Jiangli had just stepped in when she was shocked by the scene that entered her eyes. She had thought that it was just a small private room. She did not expect this private room to be more than 300 square meters in size. After entering, there was a huge living room. After passing through a long corridor, there was a billiard room, a chess room, a dining room. The entire private room was extremely luxurious. It was carved with jade, and it was a gorgeous palace pavilion. The room was equipped with the most luxurious fabrics, furniture, and facilities. With the rich and lively colors, the unrestrained and grand layout, and the beautiful lines that were close to nature, it appeared luxurious, comfortable, and noble. Jiangli did not dare to show her surprise on her face. She could only admire it in her heart, but she could not help but be shocked. This was the first time she had stepped into such a luxurious place. In the living room, almost all the students in the class had arrived. Yun Shishir held Mu Yaja's arm and stepped in. However, as soon as Mu Yaja stepped into the living room, endless exclamations could be heard. "My God! Who is this man? So handsome! Who is this man? So handsome! So handsome! So handsome! His eyes are so attractive, deep and handsome, oh my God! Is this male god a celebrity? I've never seen a more handsome celebrity than him. This man is even more handsome than Gu Xingze. He and Yun Shishir are standing together. They look so intimate. Could it be?" A group of students immediately gathered around and greeted Yun Shishir. "Shishir. You're here. Do you still remember my name?" "Shishir, how many years has it been since we last saw each other? I've been looking forward to seeing you at the class reunion. I didn't expect you to really come today." A group of people greeted her all at once. Yun Shishir forced a smile and exchanged pleasantries. However, it was inevitable that she was overwhelmed and felt a little awkward for a moment. After a short exchange of pleasantries, someone quickly changed the topic from her. Chapter 887. The group of people stared straight at Mu Yaja, obviously waiting for Yun Shishir to introduce him. Yun Shishir and Mu Yaja looked at each other, not knowing how to introduce him. Boyfriend? Husband? But they hadn't gotten their marriage certificate yet. Mu Yaja was also waiting for her, wanting to see how she would introduce him. Just as Yun Shishir was feeling troubled, Huang Lily walked over, swaying her body. She had put a lot of effort into dressing up today, with her wavy hair and exquisite makeup on her face. When she was in school, Huang Lili was known far and wide as the campus belle. The reason why she was known far and wide was because there were many university branches in that area, and several schools were close to each other. Therefore, Huang Lili's reputation was well known even in other universities. Her facial features were gorgeous to begin with. Now that she had exquisite makeup on her face, purple eyeshadow, red and tender lips, and was wearing a long bohemian dress, she looked noble and outstanding. She walked slowly in front of Yun Shishir. When the two campus belles stood face to face, the whole room fell silent. It had been 2 to 3 years since they graduated, but Huang Lili had changed a lot. She had become more sexy, more noble, and more wild. However, Yun Shishir stood in front of her, still looking elegant and refined, as if time couldn't be seen on her at all. Time was peaceful. In the past, Yun Shishir was the campus belle of the university. Therefore, many people, including Huang Lili, liked to compare them with Yun Shishir. On the school forum, there were often nosy students who compared the campus belle. Usually, Yun Shishir had the most fans. Huang Lili couldn't help but bear a grudge. The reason Yun Shishir didn't want to attend the class reunion was because of Huang Lili. Huang Lili had a deep grudge against her. There was no other reason. When they were in school, Huang Lili had a crazy crush on a boy. This boy was handsome and was a famous campus hunk in the university. As for his name, Yun Shishir naturally forgot about it. She only knew that, just like the melodramatic plot arrangement, this boy had once pursued her crazily. Therefore, Huang Lili was jealous of Yun Shishir and had several conflicts with her. During her 4 years in university, Huang Lili had always been suppressed by Yun Shishir. In terms of grades, she couldn't compare to Yun Shishir. In terms of beauty, she was often compared to Yun Shishir. Huang Lili had never forgotten the humiliation and bitterness she had suffered. However, things were different now. She, Huang Lili, was no longer the Huang Lili of the past. After graduation, Huang Lili got rid of her boyfriend in school and hooked up with a rich and powerful man. Now, with the help of her boyfriend's power, her career was going smoothly, and she was only one step away from a wealthy family. Huang Lili stood in front of Yun Shishir and looked at her. Although she had a smile on her face, she was cursing in her heart. Shishir, long time no see. Huang Lili smiled and stretched out her slender hand. Yun Shishir smiled and shook her hand, but suddenly felt a sharp pain in her hand, and the smile on her face froze. Huang Lili had a polite smile on her face, but the strength she used to hold her hand was not small. It was indeed a trap. Chapter 888. Who is this? She pursed her red lips and spoke elegantly, waiting for Yun Shishir to introduce him. This is my boyfriend. Yun Shishir introduced him with a smile. Mu Yaja's expression darkened. I thought he was Shishir's husband. He's so handsome. Yeah, Shishir and her boyfriend are a good match. Yun Shishir glanced at Mu Yaja and said, but he's about to be promoted. Promoted? Promoted to husband. Shishir, when do you plan to register your marriage? Yun Shishir replied, it's not decided yet. When the banquet is held, you must send me an invitation. I'll give you a big red packet. Shishir, how did you meet your husband? Shishir, what does your husband do for a living? Yun Shishir pursed her lips and answered, he's a company employee. Employee? Suddenly, someone laughed. Then, the crowd fell silent for a moment. At first, many people thought that Mu Yaja was a rich young master when they saw his noble aura. They didn't expect him to be an ordinary employee. The atmosphere became awkward. Jiang Li frowned. There were so many people surrounding her just now, talking about Shishir and Shishir. Why did the crowd fall silent when Shishir said that her husband was a company employee? That was too snobbish. So what if he was a company employee? Huang Lili seemed to want to smooth things over. However, the moment she opened her mouth, the atmosphere became even more awkward. My boyfriend started as a company employee. He's a manager now. As soon as she finished speaking, someone laughed and said, Lily, how can you compare? Your boyfriend is a rich second-generation heir. That company is your boyfriend's family business. It's different. Yeah. Lily, I'm so envious of you. If you get married to your boyfriend, then you'll be a phoenix and a young mistress of a wealthy family. Huang Lily pursed her lips into a smile and pretended to be shy. Don't make fun of me. Our Lily is going to be the young mistress of a wealthy family in the future. I really envy Lily. Unfortunately, I don't have such good fortune. For a moment, everyone gathered around Huang Lily, trying their best to flatter her. On the surface, Huang Lily looked decent and generous, but inside, she was already bursting with joy. For a moment, the limelight actually overshadowed Yun Shishir. This was the first time. There was no need to mention how pleased he was. Lily, where's your boyfriend? He's still in the company. He'll probably arrive a little later. Huang Lily smiled apologetically. Everyone, go ahead and play. There's no need to wait for him. How can that be? It's all right. Let's wait a little longer. Not long after, Xiao Shui and Gao Nan arrived along with their class monitor, Meng Qinghe. Meng Qinghe had just entered the private room, and the moment he saw Yun Shishir, the excitement on his face was beyond words. As soon as Gao Nan entered the room, he saw Yun Shishir sitting with an unfamiliar but handsome man. Naturally, he had never seen Mu Yaja before, so he was full of doubts. Who is this man? He seems to be very intimate with Yun Shishir. Gao Nan's gaze never left Yun Shishir. Yun Shishir did not pay much attention to him. However, Mu Yaja noticed this man. When he saw the man's gaze on Yun Shishir's body, a dangerous glint flashed in his eyes. Since they were both men, Mu Yaja naturally noticed the lust in Gao Nan's eyes. Chapter 889. In response to Mu Yaja's move, which was tantamount to a declaration of sovereignty, Gao Nan merely sneered. The two men, one standing and one standing, stared at each other with tit for tat. Naturally, Gao Nan did not know Mu Yaja's identity, but in the capital, he had never feared anyone because of his superior family background. So what if the woman he wanted was already taken? As long as he fancied a woman, Gao Nan had the means to snatch her away. Seeing Xiao Shui and Gao Nan appear, a group of people surrounded them. Xiao Shui was quite popular in class, so many people surrounded her the moment she arrived. Xiao Shui, is this your husband? No, he's my boyfriend. What's the difference between a boyfriend and a husband? We're not married yet. Your boyfriend is so handsome and tall. What does he do? I heard that Gao Nan's mother is a senior executive in Qingguang Entertainment. Ah. Gosh. Then, Gao Nan must know a lot of celebrities. Gao Nan chuckled. Hee. It's all right. Isn't there a big celebrity standing in front of you? Who is it? Everyone exchanged glances. Xiao Shui said smugly, Sure. Don't you guys usually go on Weibo? Everyone immediately cried out, we're usually so busy with work. How can we have time to check Weibo? Ah. I remember now. Isn't there a movie that's being filmed recently? It's called The Green Apple. Someone slapped her forehead, and then her shocked gaze fell on Yun Shishir. Gosh. I remember now. Shishir, are you filming a movie? I saw it at first, but I didn't recognize it because the style is different. The Green Apple. Ah. That's a movie starring my male god. Sure, are you really the female lead in it? For a moment, everyone surrounded Yun Shishir, and their eyes were filled with amazement, envy, and jealousy. Yun Shishir majored in media, and very few people could achieve a meteoric rise. After all, the entertainment industry was full of talents, and not everyone had the chance to make a name for themselves. Yun Shishir was the first. Huang Lili was a little unhappy when she saw a group of people around Yun Shishir. She said sourly, "Shishir, I'm really happy that you can realize your dream. Sigh, acting has always been my dream, but my jiayan doesn't allow me to enter the entertainment industry." "Why?" Someone immediately asked. "Lily, you've always said that you must become an outstanding actress." "That's because Jiayan said that the entertainment industry is a foul place. Most of the female celebrities who come from the entertainment industry aren't clean." Jiayan was worried that I would be bullied. Jiayan's mother said that the women in the entertainment industry are all actors and are very dirty. As soon as she said this, Xiao Shue's expression changed. Wasn't Huang Lili implying that Yun Shishir was an actress? Even though she said that the entertainment industry was dirty on the surface, she was actually insinuating that Yun Shishir was a dirty actress. Everyone understood the meaning behind Huang Lili's words, and the atmosphere inevitably became a little awkward. Only Yun Shishir sat in her seat without a trace of anger on her face. She was calm and composed. Chapter 890. Her words made it seem like she was trying to cover it up. Xiao Shuai thought to herself, "This Huang Lili is too much. She's obviously targeting me." She looked at Yun Shishir, only to see her pursed lips smiling. "You're telling the truth." Yun Shishir blinked her bright eyes and smiled. "The entertainment industry isn't as clean as everyone thinks. Your boyfriend is worried that you'll be bullied because he loves you." Hearing this, Huang Lili's ears felt very comfortable, and she felt a burst of comfort in her heart. Yun Shishir continued, "However, only those who aren't capable rely on unspoken rules to get to where they are." Huang Lili's face froze. Xiao Shuai couldn't help but laugh. Even Mu Yaja couldn't help but smile. This little woman is so sharp-tongued. How could she be so easily bullied? Everyone's faces were full of emotions and their expressions were subtle. Yun Shishir immediately added, "Oh, Lily, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to target you. Please don't take it to heart." Huang Lili gritted her teeth and pretended to be magnanimous. "It's okay. It was an unintentional mistake." However, she would remember this grudge. Anyway, she had plenty of time to deal with this B*TCH. With that thought, Huang Lili suddenly chuckled. "Sigh, as a woman, I don't have to work too hard. I'll be successful if I marry a good man. At least, I won't have to worry for the rest of my life." As she spoke, she reached out her hand and fiddled with the diamond ring on her finger. A 3-carat diamond ring was exposed in front of everyone's eyes. Everyone was shocked and envious. "Oh my God! What a big diamond! Lily, how big is your diamond?" 31 carats. Huang Lili pretended to be indifferent. However, she couldn't wait to report the decimal point accurately. "It's so big. It must be very expensive. It's only a few 100,000. Huang Lili's casual tone was a stark contrast to everyone's stunned eyes. "A few 100,000. Oh my God, it's so expensive. I'll be satisfied if I have a 1-carat ring. That's why marrying a good man is a woman's biggest career." As Huang Lili spoke, she cast a contemptuous look at Yun Shishir. She did not know if she did it on purpose, but her tone was full of disdain. After all, diamonds and wedding gowns are a woman's ultimate dream. Everything else is insignificant. I'm lucky, unlike some people who spend their whole lives and still can't afford it. As soon as she said that, everyone felt awkward. She was obviously targeting Yun Shishir. Everyone looked at Yun Shishir, only to see her whispering to Mu Yaja. She completely ignored Huang Lili. Xiao Shuai said, "When our Shishir gets married, she'll have to wear a pigeon egg." Diamond. Huang, she's a diamond to where a diamond is to a few $100 million a diamond ring. That's right. Why not? Her boyfriend is just a company employee. I don't even know if his annual salary is more than $100,000. She must be dreaming. A girl who had always been at odds with Yun Shishir finally seized the opportunity to say something. Yun Shishir was even more amused. She glanced at Muyaja. Muyaja raised his eyebrows. Chapter 891. All right. It's a class reunion. Everyone should be fine. Someone came out to smooth things over. Only then did the commotion pass. More or less everyone was present. It was just that Huang Lily's boyfriend did not show up for a long time. Needless to say, this was intentional. Someone with some weight naturally had to make an appearance at the end, right? Hence, just as the banquet was about to start, Huang Lily's boyfriend finally arrived. The moment he entered, Huang Lily immediately went up to him, hooked her arm around his, and introduced him to everyone. Let me introduce you all, this is my boyfriend, Du Jiayan. We're about to register our marriage, so I'll invite everyone to my wedding banquet. She was deliberately showing off. Those who wanted to flatter her naturally went along with it. Everyone immediately hooted and flattered her, each one louder than the last. Only Meng Qinghe's expression was ugly. Yun Shishir sized him up. His looks were passable, but his height was only half a head taller than Huang Lily, which was considered a shortcoming. Huang Lily was 1.6 meters tall. Du Jiayan should only be 1.7 meters tall. So short. Xiao Shuai whispered into Yun Shishir's ear. Yun Shishir patted her hand. Stop fooling around. Isn't it? Shishir, look at Huang Lily. She's clearly using this class reunion to show off how rich her boyfriend is and how much he dotes on her. Humph. How boring. Under everyone's flattery, Du Jiayan arrogantly entered the banquet hall. The moment he sat down, he opened a brand new pack of cigarettes and handed them out one by one. A classmate received it and was shocked. Red River. These are good cigarettes. You can't buy them even if you have the money. He said, these are Red River cigarettes. They're rarely seen in the market. When it was handed to Muyaja, he did not take it. Unlike those bowing boys earlier, he did not take it with a cold face. He did not even look at it. He was stunned. What's wrong? You're not used to smoking good cigarettes. When he opened his mouth, his teasing tone was filled with thorns. Muyaja raised his eyes and looked at him. His expression was indifferent and his eyes were as cold as ice. No. How can a man not smoke? It's fine. Shishir doesn't like me smoking, so I don't smoke. Muyaja's expression was still cold. Huang Lily laughed and said, he's afraid of his wife. Du Jiayan was especially disdainful as he frowned and said disapprovingly, men should at least be more strong-willed. What's the point of looking at a woman's face? What? Are you really afraid of your wife? Muyaja looked at Yun Shishir and smiled gently. I'm afraid of losing her. I'm afraid of losing her. Yun Shishir blushed at his words. She pursed her lips and snickered. Everyone was caught off guard. They were all dumbfounded after being stuffed with dog food. Xiao Shuai praised, Aya. What a good man. That's right, the wife comes first. TSK. What good man? Is a good man like this? Du Jiayan did not think much of it and laughed contemptuously. A good man must first have the ability to support his family. Only a good man can let his wife eat and wear well and not let her be bullied. Huang Lily rebuked, Jiayan, that's enough. Leave him some face. I haven't introduced him to you yet, right? This is Shishir's boyfriend, a company employee. Chapter 892. Xiao Shui tugged at the corner of Yun Shishir's shirt. Is your boyfriend really a company employee? She did not believe it. Mu Yazhe looked noble and elegant. She would believe it if he were a rich young master. An ordinary employee. How could an ordinary employee have such an aura? Yes, Yun Shishir said matter-of-factly. The so-called employees were the management personnel of a company. Shishir was not wrong. The CEO was also a company employee. Huang Lili and Du Jiayan exchanged glances. Du Jiayan understood the meaning behind her gaze, so he stared at Mu Yazhe and asked, "Friend, which company are you working for?" Dishing Financial Group, Mu Yazhe replied succinctly. Dishing Financial Group. Someone at the table exclaimed, anyone who can enter Dishing Financial Group is an elite. I heard that Dishing's treatment is even better than that of a civil servant. That's right. Dishing cherishes talents very much. Those who can enter Dishing are all talents. Everyone's expression changed as they looked at Mu Yazhe. Zhangli was also very envious. In Dishing's headquarters, even a small employee's annual salary started at 300,000 yuan. Although 300,000 yuan was not considered high in the capital, it was still considered good conditions. Du Jiayan felt a little embarrassed. Huang Lili immediately nudged him with her elbow, her eyes filled with anger. He immediately coughed and said, I know Dishing Financial Group's CEO and have even met him a few times. When the time comes, I'll greet him and ask him to take care of you. The moment he said those words, he was undoubtedly putting on airs. Mu Yazhe's eyes were a little blank. Why do I not remember meeting this person? Yun Shishir was also stunned. She then turned to ask him secretly, has he really met you before? No. Mu Yazhe raised a brow. I don't know him. Yun Shishir's lips twitched. Du Jiayan's words were really interesting. The real Dishing CEO was sitting right in front of him. As soon as he said that, everyone in the banquet hall looked at him with admiration. Brother Jiayan, do you know the CEO of Dishing? Yes. We've met a few times and played golf together. Du Jiayan said. Ah, Dishing's CEO is Mu Yazhe, right? Yes. He nodded smugly. My relationship with him isn't bad. Mu Yazhe frowned slightly, but he was not in a hurry to point it out. After all, this dinner party was too boring. They needed a clown to liven up the atmosphere. Du Jiayan could not help feeling displeased that Mu Yazhe had not bowed to express his gratitude even though he had already said so much. He had already said that he wanted to greet the CEO of Dishing and take care of him. He should express his gratitude. But she didn't see any reaction from him. Huang Lili said unhappily, Yun Shishir, your boyfriend is too inconsiderate. He won't be able to make a name for himself in the future. Yun Shishir raised a brow and glanced at Mu Yazhe, who was lazily propping his chin with one hand, and laughed. What do you mean by that?